Two great teams, two great programs, and what a game the game delivered. Wow, that was an awesome game. Hope you enjoyed it. Michigan fans, I know that you did. Ohio State fans, I know that you didn't, but still just understand it's a college football game among, again, great young men for the most part, we hope. And again, it was a tremendous game and didn't go the way I wanted it to, but still, uh, congratulations to Michigan. Congratulations to getting the job done, making the plays when they had to. Not a whole lot separates these two teams. Some of us knew that going in. Others thought that Ohio State would run away with it. Others thought Michigan was far superior team and would run away with it. But most of us that pay attention and understand, unlike some of the idiots that I saw on social media when it went to 14-3 Michigan, like they're throwing dirt on Ohio State's grave. I'm like, you people are morons who have never watched college football. Great game, phenomenal game. And again, bitter for the Buckeyes, sweet for the Wolverines, again, for a third consecutive year as Ohio State falls to Michigan 30-24. And it took a last gasp interception by Rod Moore on the pressure on Kyle McCord. Arm was hit, and he was going for Marvin Harrison down the seam, and it, went right down to the wire. Marvin Harrison was at the 15-yard line? It was building up to a dramatic finish, and Kyle McCord played an exceptional game, as did J.J. McCarthy, as did just about everybody on the field. So certainly be proud of your team, proud of your players, regardless of who you root for. And unless any nonsense ensues after the game, it was just a tremendous football game. So we will get right to it. Again, Michigan headed on to the Big Ten championship game to play Iowa. Kirk Ferentz, I don't know what he was going through his mind watching this game, because this is just a whole different level of football than what they experienced in the Big Ten Western Division, but that's been going on for quite some time. So he's probably used to it and wasn't flustered or budged in any particular way in regards to how he views his approach coming up this week. So Michigan still needing to win next week to go to the playoff, winning the Big Ten championship. It's all up in the air in Indianapolis. Ohio State most likely will miss the playoff. Don't see a foreseeable route, even though it was a razor close game. So there is that. They got blasted in the fourth quarter last year and still reached the playoffs under much different circumstances. This Ohio State team, just as I had told people for the last 2 or 3 weeks, this Ohio State team, forget C.J. Stroud. He's a great quarterback, and he is proving that at the next level. It's a team, and this Ohio State team's better than last year's Ohio State team that got to play in the playoffs. So unfortunately for the Buckeyes, they will not get to prove whether they are the best football team in the country. Michigan will get to prove that, and we'll have that opportunity. All right, let's get right to it. We got Michael in here. Michael, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm glad I seen 2 great games, because the high school state finals I worked was not a good game. 40-3 was the final score today.
Okay. But I'm guessing that nobody cares about hearing about your high school football game today.
I know.
Okay, but, keep moving along, Michael.
That said, though, I almost had the score correctly predicted and stuff like that. But the only thing I'm trying to figure out, though, on that end, do you think that was the right call to catch the fumble?
The catch and the fumble by Julian Fleming by Ohio State?
Yeah, when they were driving before the interception.
Yeah, he took 3 steps.
Okay, I wasn't sure it looked like. Now,
in real time, I didn't know, but once they slowed it down, and I thought, he's secured the football, and it's not moving in his arms. Plus, he's taken 3 steps. That would be a fumble. Yes, right. Yes, that would be a fumble.
Now, what about the touchdown in the first half with Michigan? That was kind of iffy.
Well, I understood Joel Klatt's perspective on it. He believed that the refs screwed it up and it was a bad call, and that the ball was not completed. But to me, I try to be a little bit more sensible about it. We've all watched a lot of football, and did that look like a touchdown play? Yeah, it looked like a touchdown catch. He caught the ball. He was running into the end zone, being tackled at the same time. Yes, in this day and age, the way the rule book reads, the end zone is not treated like a different portion of the field.
Yeah.
It's treated like the rest of the field, and you have to complete the play to the ground. And Denzel Burke wrestled the ball out of his arm. So Joel Klatt, certainly he knows football as well as anybody and knows the rule book, and explained his perspective on that it should not have been a touchdown. It should have been an interception. But I don't know. I go more by the spirit of the way football's played. To me, that was a touchdown. But again, a controversial play. Ohio State can certainly whine and cry about that, and can use that as an excuse. But they had plenty of time to come back. But that was a tough call.
Okay, now I got to ask you this. I'm not sure. Is the Rose Bowl part of the CFP this year?
Is the who?
The Rose Bowl.
I don't know. I don't keep track of that stuff. There's 2 bowl games. It doesn't matter what bowl games. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't look into that. I think it's stupid that they call any bowl games college football playoff games. They're college football playoff games. They're not bowl games.
No,
they
I know.
They cease to be bowl games as soon as they're no longer affiliated with conferences and they are in the college football playoff. To me, they cease to be bowl games. So I don't know.
I wasn't sure if they was going with the loss. They was going to, or is Ohio State going to do Year 6? That's what I was trying to figure out.
Oh, if they're going to go to I got you. If they're going to go to the Rose Bowl representing the Big Ten. No, because I've heard that the loser of this game would most likely go to the Orange Bowl.
Okay. I was just wondering stuff like that. All right. I know you got a lot of callers. Plus, you got to get another 2 post-game shows started and stuff like that. Thanks for taking my call, Mark. See you later tonight.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We got Mike on the line. Mike, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great as well. All the important things in life are what they should be. So I'm doing great. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I could always use some good news heading into this weekend.
Yeah, you've got a few things going on.
Yeah, so this will help me lift my spirits, help me mend a little bit quicker. Looking forward to the Iowa game. I mean, we could say, nothing's set in stone, but I mean, this, Iowa beating us would be like Buster Douglas over Tyson, or
sure, which did happen,
or like the 80 USA team over the Soviets.
Yes, which did happen.
Yeah, I know it would be that level of upset.
Yes,
like I have to say, it was a pretty fairly officiated game. I mean, I thought that.
I think so. Yes.
I thought it was a touchdown. The Roman Wilson catch. Now it didn't look like. Well, yeah, but it couldn't.
I do as well.
And there was nothing that really said you could overturn. Conversely, I didn't think that Julian Fleming made a football play on that last catch that he fumbled and Ibuka picked up. But
so what I never understood about that term is, what is a football move? If you're running, what is that not a football move? In what way is that not a football move if you take 3 steps running with the football after you caught it?
Well, I only saw 2, but I mean, now if he had taken a step forward, instead of laterally, east-west, that would have been what I would have called a football move. But like I say, it wasn't something that, if it was called in the field, it's not something you're going to overturn. So
yeah, don't football players run laterally all the time?
Yeah, but usually there has that in a situation like that would be what was considered a football move, quote unquote. But
yeah, I always thought that was a stupid term and didn't make any sense to me.
I think a lot of rules are stupid and don't make much sense, but they are what they are.
Like if a player stood at the 50-yard line and he threw them a football and they caught it and just stood there and held the ball for like 20 seconds, they didn't make any football move. Did they not catch the football?
As a Lions fan, it goes back. Remember the old Calvin Johnson?
Oh, absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
That was horrible too, and it goes back to Des Bryant against the Cowboys and the Packers in the playoffs. He catches the ball, he brings it down. I actually remember that play more than the Calvin Johnson, even though I know the Calvin Johnson play preceded it, and his was on the right sideline near the end zone. Des Bryant was on the other sideline, but catch the ball, bring it down, roll. I don't know what you have to do to keep control of a football. I think they went from one end of the spectrum with this rule back in the Butch Johnson Cowboys days in the Super Bowl, the play that they show all the time. You remember that one where he dives, he
Yeah.
barely has it, and it's a touchdown, to all the way to the end of the spectrum. These guys basically have to pack the football in a backpack and take it home with them before it's a catch.
Yeah, I think there just seems to be no continuity. I mean, and like you said, the term football move is, somewhat ambiguous. But I mean, just going by precedence of what's considered, and actually, I don't even know, is that really a term that I know that's for the NFL. Now, does that hold up in college too?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I don't know. That's a good question. At times, I think that sometime during the off season, I need to take the new rules and the entire rule book and just plow ahead and just read the entire thing. But no, I could never bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It hurt my head. Well, one thing that I was really surprised was I thought this game was going to be, Travion Henderson's. And now, for it being as close a game as it were, Henderson was held in check pretty well.
Oh, yes.
Now I know that he had, was dealing with a little bit of injuries, but he was still on the field for much of it. And I was just, I mean, did he average more than like 2.5 yards a carry?
Well, obviously, neither rushing attack did anything. Ohio State completely stone cold them and Michigan. And until they got that drive going, whenever it was in the third quarter, that made it either the one that made it 17-all, must have been the drive where they got the run game going, but they weren't ripping off huge runs. They were plodding along at 4-6 yards. But I got to think, he was well under 3 yards a carry, I would think.
Yeah, and I figured that'd be, because I said it was going to come down to Henderson and Stover, and Stover had himself a great catch in that opening drive, or not the first scoring drive.
Yep. Yes, he did. I know that the rushing stats were minuscule.
Yeah, like I said, and we didn't exactly run the air out of the ball either. It got a little bit better towards the end, but overall, I was hoping our rushing attack would be a little bit more effective.
Yeah, so Blake Corum went 22 carries for 88. That's an even 4 yards per carry, and he was well below that at halftime. So, it did loosen up in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the last drive was key. They didn't score, but to keep the ball, they scored a field goal, but to keep the ball away for that long, they got the ball back with 6.5 minutes and killed it all the way down to a minute. So that was huge. So Corum 22 for 88 at halftime. He was 9 for 19. So he went 13 carries for 69 in the second half, and Donovan Edwards 10 for 31.
Yeah. So, I mean, nobody really, busted open, but if you did hear a lot of cheering from Michigan fans there, that was the time when Alex Orji came in, a rare sighting of Alex Orji, and he broke off a really nice run because
he did.
A lot of fans. I mean, Orji's, he kind of reminds me of Cam Newton with significantly less arm talent. I mean, for a physical
he's
specimen,
a bulldozer. He's like 235.
Yeah, I mean, he's every bit a physical specimen as Cam. And now he couldn't, like I said, he could fall out of a boat and miss the water. But as far as a running attack, there's talk about him, returning kicks and maybe a good goal line package. I mean, he couldn't throw to save their life, but
that was one of those moves that if it backfired, the thought would be, why are you taking out one of the best quarterbacks in the country to put this guy in? But it worked, and they limited it. They ran him twice, and I think that was it.
Yeah, he was in for 2 plays. One broke off for it, about 25, 30 yards, and the other one kind of went nowhere.
Yeah, he went 20 yards on one and 2 on the next.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right though. If that had kind of blew up, Sharon would have had to answer some questions at the post game. Because it's kind of a tell, because if Orji's in there, he ain't throwing the ball. Make no mistake about it. I mean, it's a huge tell.
Yeah, he's going to hand it off or he's going to keep it. So all that jet motion and everything is what's keeping the defense hopefully off balance when you do that.
Yeah.
JJ was great. He really was. I know they didn't count on him to be super explosive. He only threw 20 passes, but he was pinpoint accurate and he delivered some balls with dudes just bearing in on him. And he also escaped the pocket and threw the ball downfield well a number of times.
Yeah. I say in the first half, he made about, 3 or 4 just pure NFL passes.
Yep.
But in the second half, he did exactly what I complained about him doing. He threw across the body. Now, Cornelius Johnson caught it still. Why does he keep doing that? I hope if he makes it into the pros, some QB coach beats that out of him because that's a terrible decision.
Which bought them another first down.
Yes.
So that was huge because that got them to like 4th and 1, 4th and a half or whatever it was. And then they were able to get another first down before they got stopped.
Yeah.
And probably, secured the field goal. Plus it got them another first down.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is,
yeah,
it worked out, but that doesn't forgive the fact that he shouldn't be trying that. And, sometimes that's going to, screw you up. Like I said, in the Maryland game, he did that and it happened to not work. And then the following play, he threw a pick in the end zone. But that play right before it, that was a worse pass because, he has this really nasty habit of, when he's scrambling right, he'll throw a cross body to the left. And it's just a poor decision. It's something I'm surprised Harbaugh hasn't tried to train him out of yet. But,
well, maybe he has. JJ seems like a pretty strong-willed guy, which is generally a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think this game would have gone a lot different if you had a different quarterback. McCord kind of lost this one.
Well, I don't want to pin it on him. I thought he played extremely well after the first quarter. I don't know what else he could have done after the first quarter. He was on it. And the last play of the game was certainly not on him. It was on the offensive line. It was on pass protection.
Yeah, no, we did start getting on him in that last drive to win the game. But I just think that, a quarterback with a little bit more poise might have had a shot at this one.
A little more poised than Kyle McCord? You didn't think he was poised?
No. I mean, I don't think he was a nervous wreck, but I think there were some situations. I mean, he was missing a couple wide open guys toward late in the game. It wasn't just the last drive, but
I would like to see those pointed out to me because I don't remember him missing much of anything unless he was getting thrown to the ground. And I'm talking past the first quarter.
Wasn't there like a check down with Henderson that he kind of whiffed badly?
Early in the fourth quarter, he threw a little swing pass out to the right that he missed, but they picked it up right after that.
Yeah.
JJ threw the first pass of the game right into the ground.
Well, like I say,
I thought McCord played fine. I have no issue with Kyle McCord in this game. Now, I would like to know a little bit more about that interception. It was described by Klatt as being more of Marvin Harrison not getting to the spot and breaking back to the ball and letting Will Johnson beat him to the spot.
That's what it looked like, but there's only 2 guys that would really know. Well, 3 guys that would really know that. But it looks like Will just plain out jump the route.
Yeah.
So now that they've lost 3 in a row, do you think how much the fire Ryan Day talk do you think you're going to have to put up with?
Oh, we're going to hear this all off season. But they're not going to fire Ryan Day.
No, I mean, if memory serves, isn't he like, what was it, 41-0 against conference teams not named Michigan?
Yes.
So, I mean, if the fact that you have a losing streak against Michigan is the only gripe you have, then, it's a first world problem to me.
And it's not good, but I don't know. You play a game down to the wire at the big house And, it's not acceptable to lose. You are there to win championships. But again, when you make a firing, you've got to replace the guy. So it's not all just about the firing, it's about the hiring. And who's that going to be that's going to be better than 56-7? Who else is 56-7 the last 63 games? I got to think that's Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. Not Jim Harbaugh, not Dabo Sweeney, not anybody. Not Lincoln Riley, not Brian Kelly.
Well, I could tell you it's not Nick Saban because he went 6-6 and then got the 7th win against Oklahoma State in a meaningless bowl his first year. So.
Yes, you're taking it from the beginning of his tenure. I was talking about the last 63 games.
Oh, okay.
You're right. Yes, Nick Saban's not. Yeah, he lost 7 games his first year, or 6 games his first year at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan. I mean, this is Ryan Day's, entire resume. This isn't just the most recent. Now he did inherit a team where Nick Saban inherited a cupboard of absolutely nothing. So
yeah.
And I'll say one. I think I'm going to hold up a little bit on the poking fun of Jim Knowles. I thought he played a pretty good game because I said when the Jim Knowles hire happened, I said, you guys are going to live to regret that one.
Well, I thought the Ohio State defense played a great first half and started to wear down in the fourth quarter against the run. But schematically, I don't know. The only part of this game they didn't have much of an answer for was Colston Loveland and AJ Barner. They couldn't cover the tight ends.
Yeah. And my thought was that Knowles was going to have trouble stopping the run, but he actually did a pretty good job at that this game.
Yeah. Once they started to give up yards in the ground game, it wasn't a scheme issue. They were just getting beat, and Michigan's offensive line started to lean on them and get some yardage.
Yeah. So I will say that, I'm going to hold up a little bit on my, Jim Knowles talk.
What's your shirt say there? Gotcha.
Ohio State is our bitch again, and it's got the 2 scores there, the 45-23, 43-26. It's going to need an update.
Yes. Absolutely. And anytime you see a shirt like that, it's a pretty new shirt, that it's under 3 years old. Actually, under 2 years old.
Oh, well, this is a last year's shirt, because let me say it's got the last year's score on it. I got it for Christmas last year. My family knows that I'm a Michigan guy.
Well, yes, they should.
Well, I mean, they know enough to don't get me underwear or some knick-knack that I won't use. Get me something with the Black M on it, and we're good.
Nice. Okay, Mike, anything else?
No, just a good game. Hopefully, we have some civility. Reduce the trolls. If you're going to, any of the Ohio State fans are going to go, wah, cheating, wah, excuse this, wah, excuse that, just, kind of keep it to yourself.
Yeah, none of that's going to be reduced.
Yeah, you kind of hope so.
I hope so, too.
I hope so, too. Well, thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you, Michael. Hope everything works out well.
Oh, I will. And you won't be rid of me. Like I said, I won't make the panel tomorrow, but I hopefully maybe start popping in after next weekend.
Very good, sir.
Go Blue.
I appreciate it. We'll see you.
Yep.
All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Let's get to a super chat or 2 or 3. We've got Pre-M Sports. Love you, Mark. Well, I could use a little hug right now, Pre-M Sports. Thank you for that. Sorry for your loss. You're a class act. Thank you so much. Props to you, and keep it classy. We intend to do that. The world could use a little bit more class. All right, Matthew, thank you so much for the contribution. Mark, all of us know how you feel. Good game. See you next November. Thank you for that, Matthew. That's very nice of you. Appreciate that. D2K2, has Michigan played someone yet? I don't know where that's directed at. Of course, he's sending me the super chat. So D2K2, I appreciate the contribution. Yeah, so either Michigan hasn't played anyone yet, and Ohio State's just another horrible team, just like I saw on, Peter Burns, great friend of the show. Consider him a friend of sorts. It's not like I talk to the guy every day or anything like that. And he's been on here many times from the SEC network, but, a little too much SEC ridiculous, obnoxious bias out there. Made some kind of comment when Michigan went up 14-3. It's amazing how many people out there either have never watched a football game in their lives, like it's 14-3, and I'm seeing whether that's Michigan fans or Ohio State fans or just people watching the game that are fans of other teams, just acting like the game's over. And it's like, have you morons never seen a football game before? It's 14-3. It's in the second quarter. Yes, that's an advantage. Oh my. If I had a staff that could track all the moronic comments that people make that are way, way ahead of their time, that are written way before they should be stated. But anyway, our buddy Peter Burns was going off about Ohio State being a fake team and all this other business, and about how everyone always thinks they're a national championship contender. Well, if Ohio State is not consistently a national championship contender, I don't know who is. I don't know who that program would be. All right. We've got Taylor here. Thank you for the contribution, sir. Great game from a Michigan fan. Happy to see a close game between the two go in Michigan's favor. Taylor, class act. Thank you for your contribution. We appreciate you. Now we got D2K2 coming back with Ohio State fans are turning into Michigan fans, always talking about Ohio State, the past. Yes, some of them do, possibly. I don't really see those in our community. Most Ohio State fans seem to be rather confident in the team and the coach and the program right now. And why wouldn't you be? They've got the number 2 recruiting class in America. They win 11 games every year. They have just failed on one front 3 consecutive years. Other than that, their results are as good or better than anybody in the country. So I don't know why, as an Ohio State fan, that you need to talk about the past. Beat Michigan. Matthew Miller, this rivalry is won in the trenches, just like most games. Michigan is slightly better in the trenches. Blaming McCord is dumb. I would completely agree with that. I thought Ohio State was the better team in the trenches for certainly in the first half and then into the third quarter. But as it was all assessed, and once the team started to get worn down in the fourth quarter, Michigan was better in the trenches, being able to pop a couple running plays, get Blake Corum that touchdown that made it 24-17, and then driving the ball back down the field to kick the field goal in 27-17. So there's 3 drives basically where Michigan started to get the run game going. The one that broke free, Blake Corum for the touchdown, 24-17. The one that, bam, they drive right back down the field. Ohio State gets the stop, but Michigan, again, chewed up time, chewed up the clock. And it's not like they ran it a million times in a row, but it was heavy run, no question. 2-1, 39 runs, 20 passes overall. And then, of course, to chew the clock from 6.5 minutes to a minute, that was the Michigan ground game. So, yeah, Michigan slightly better in the trenches overall. Yeah, slightly better. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You're playing at home. You're slightly better in the trenches. And the other team, meaning Ohio State, makes the one crucial mistake in the game. There's your difference. Otherwise, Ohio State's a more talented team. I think we can see that. And Ohio State has more top-end talent. But Michigan's better in the trenches. They're playing at home. They didn't make a crucial mistake. There's your game. All right. We've got the Lost Angels. I guess sign stealing doesn't matter all that much, huh? Ohio State fans, no more sign stealing excuses. Take that L against our interim coach. Yeah, well, Jim Harbaugh was coaching the team. So this was not like he was suspended and was not coaching the team. So let's also make that distinction between other suspensions in the past for other coaches that have had to leave the team and not be the coach of the team. So that's different. And yeah, there should be no sign stealing excuses about this particular game. But we will find out in the next year or so about Michigan's cheating. We know that Michigan is cheated. We don't know to what extent. We don't know to what extent people knew about it. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about the cheating because we've got the entire off season. But it's well established Michigan cheated. Let's understand that Michigan cheated to the extent that they had to fire a linebacker coach. And then we will see the rest of the NCAA investigation play out. But Michigan was the slightly better team today. I personally, it's difficult for me to not think that Ohio State's a better team overall, but the better team doesn't always win the game. Do I think Louisville's a better team than Kentucky? Yeah, I do. But they lost to Kentucky today. So that happens. All right. We got Biggs Mike's on the line. Biggs, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Mark. How are you?
I am doing just fine.
I told you I'll call in win or lose, but it's a little bit easier to call in. Before we talk about the game, I hope you and your family had a good Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you. Same to you.
I know a lot of people are going off on McCord, but I mean, I think he, after that first quarter, played a good game for Ohio State.
He did too.
He threw, I mean, it does help to have Marvin Harrison, but he threw a pass to, I think it was Fleming on the sideline. That was just a hell of a catch. That was a hell of a pass. In the fourth quarter, I think it was. I thought he played pretty well. I mean, he did have that turnover in the first quarter, but I don't know if that was more on Marvin or more on him. But,
yeah, we just talked about that. I don't know either. Seems like Joel Klatt, the way he broke it down, he was blaming Marvin Harrison more for not fighting his way to the spot and coming back to the football. But Ryan Day could answer that question. Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison. Those three for sure.
I know JJ didn't have crazy numbers, but I thought he played a good game as well. He had some passes in there that were just like, especially after the last 2 weeks of him just getting, beaten down with criticism. Like he threw some dimes in there, like especially that one to Roman Wilson with like down the seam with like two defenders coming and trying to get the ball. He just split it. It was a beautiful throw.
Oh yeah,
and he used his legs a few times more this time. He ran for a nice first down, and I think it was the third quarter, like a 15-yard run when we needed it, and. I think it was that fourth quarter, Michigan leaned on their offensive line again, especially like I think they got the ball back with 6-something minutes to go, and to get it all the way down to to give Ohio State 1 minute and 10 seconds that was impressive. Because I mean, Ohio State knew we were running the ball, and they just marched down the field. It was but both defenses played well. That was an old school, just good game. It could have gone either way.
Yeah, that's the kind of game I like because we hit a bit of everything. Although we didn't really have crazy plays. It wasn't like watching the Iowa-Nebraska game yesterday. You didn't have any block kicks or forced fumbles or crazy plays, deflected passes and that sort of thing. But it was just a well-played game, hard-hitting, of course, and it had defense dominating early. Again, when I can watch a game like this and compare it to other conferences, the Big 12, the Pac-12, where you see defensive backs that have no clue of what's going on, and you see wide receivers running around wide open, like these quarterbacks had to be on the money to complete passes. Like this is a different level of football. And I don't care who wants to argue with me concerning the Pac-12 because it looks good. No, they're not in this category. They're not on this level.
And what I've always loved about Big Ten, especially the receivers, they block for their running backs. Like Ohio State has some good blocks. Marvin Harrison was blocking. Abuka was blocking.
Yep.
And then right on the other end, Cornelius Johnson. That's all. Since I started watching Big Ten football 30 years ago, that's what I've always noticed. Like the receivers block. You have to block if you're going to go to a Big Ten school, at least the better ones.
Yeah, I had
North.
somebody hit me up on Twitter today that made some kind of comment about, or I think it was last night, because Oregon was romping, and Oregon's an extremely talented, really good team, and would be difficult for anyone to handle. But just about, oh, they're going to come to the Big Ten and just have their way, and I'm like, and they're going to introduce offense to the Big Ten. And I said, well, the Big Ten is going to be introducing defense to these 4 teams coming in from the Pac-12. Number one, number two, they're actually going to be introducing playing against more NFL players than what they currently do in the Pac-12.
And whether or not they like it or not, that weather, when they get to these deep November games, that makes a difference too. You know, you're not playing on, like if they go to Ann Arbor or they go to Columbus, like, Washington or USC, they're not used to that November game when it's like 30 degrees.
True to an extent. I don't know that they're completely what am I looking for here? My vocabulary's left me. I don't think they're completely unfamiliar with playing in that kind of weather in Seattle or Eugene, Oregon, or Corvallis.
Yeah. It would be interesting next year, but on this game alone, it was a good game. I've been watching, Michigan for 30 plus years, and it was one of those old school games. Kind of like, it went like this in like 2006, 2016. Like, this comes down to the wire, who makes that one or two plays that changes the game. And I think the Roman Wilson catch, people are going to say it was intercept. It was a turnover. It wasn't a catch. I think since it was called a catch, it stayed a catch. If it would have been called an interception, it would have probably stayed an interception. Yes. That's exactly what it was. But like you were saying, that happened in, what was that, the first quarter? Like, you had 3 quarters to, one play does not decide a game. So I don't want to hear anything about it.
Well, it could, but we'll never know. I don't think you can make an excuse. If that suddenly is Ohio State's football and they're not down 14-3, they've got the ball at the 20-yard line and they're down 7-3. Who knows? We will have no idea. And I just go back to any reasonable football fan that's been watching football for a long time. You watch the game and you watch a play like that. What does that look like? And even watching the replay, it looks like a touchdown. Ball's caught, it's secured, it's crossing the goal line. I know he didn't fall all the way to the ground to secure the catch. It was ripped out of his hands. But to me, that's if the rules need to be changed, then the rules need to be changed. To me, that's a catch and it's a touchdown.
And I've said many times, you're one of the few reasonable Buckeye fans. So I don't think 98% of them are going to see it that way. But I heard you talk about it during halftime. That's like you said the same thing. It's a bang bang play, and to the eye, it's a touchdown.
And somebody like Joel Klatt, when he breaks it down and he thinks it was the incorrect call, that causes me to think about it, watch it more seriously. Had he not stepped in and had the viewpoint on it that he did, I wouldn't even have really suspected it any such way or really looked at it as harshly.
And before I go, I think what really hurt Ohio State was the tight ends from Michigan, Loveland and Garner. Or just I've been waiting all season. They use Loveland, but they don't use him enough, in my opinion. But today they used them when it was that middle of that field was just open. I mean, he's a tough matchup. He's like he's not on that Brock Bowers level, but he's that kind of tight end. That's just a mismatch waiting to happen.
Yeah, that was my main point to our buddy Steve Dace on Michigan Podcast this week. He asked me what was my major concern, and I said after Kyle McCord and whether he's going to make a mistake or two that's going to be costly, which in a sense came true. Although, again, first quarter can be made up for. I don't think Ohio State is going to have an answer for Colston Loveland and A.J. Barner, but more so Loveland. He's a little bit more athletic, but they both had a number of big plays in the passing game.
Because I thought you guys were going to use Stober a little more. He had that 30-yard catch. I think it was the second quarter when y'all went down there and scored. And he had a couple catches here and there, but he wasn't really utilized like I thought he would be. And that guy Marvin Harrison is just unguardable. It's not even fair. I mean, he's this next level. Last thing I'll say before I go. I know we have plenty of time to talk about that game next week, but if Michigan happens to beat Iowa, I look forward to the commissioner having a hand. Harbaugh, the Big Ten trophy. I look forward to that.
Yeah, that will be something.
That'll be good. I know you got a lot of callers, Mark, and I always appreciate you taking my call. And you enjoy your Saturday. I know your Bucks lost, but I know you're still, you take it on the chest and, keep bringing out the content. We always enjoy it.
Thank you, Biggs. I appreciate
Take care,
it.
bud. All right, bud.
These losses get easier and easier as they come and as I get older. What can I say? I don't know that I would have ran a much better YouTube channel when I was 25 years old. Believe me, I would have been so much better. I was a better broadcast. I would have been so much better. I would have been more emotional, would have got more views, more clicks, because I would have been on here ranting and raving and chewing people out and being condescending and sarcastic and all those things that you people seem to like that comes out of me once in a while. But I don't know if I could handle after a Michigan loss when I was 25 years old being on here doing a YouTube. No. All right, let's keep it rolling. We got Jackson here. Hey, Jackson.
How's it going?
I'm
How's
good.
it going, Mark? How's it going, Mark?
Good.
Well, got some questions. Do you
Yeah.
think Sharon Moore is the next Ryan Day? Is he the coach in waiting at Michigan, or is it an overreaction for me?
No, I don't think that's an overreaction. If Jim Harbaugh decides to leave, or if this is such a messy scandal that they have to get rid of him, I think that Sharon Moore is going to get a long, long look.
It would not surprise me if he was the Nets head coach, honestly. If Harbaugh was like, I want to get a shot at old man Carroll again.
Yeah, Mike Ford says that that's an overreaction and that he will not be the next head coach. But I think that they will give him a huge consideration.
What do you think about when people are comparing Ryan Day to John Cooper? I'm curious about that.
Well, those people need to go back and look at records because there's no comparison between John Cooper's record at Ohio State and Ryan Day. It's a much more complicated answer than anything I could give you right now, but there's a few things on each side. One would be Ryan Day took over an elite program, one of the 2 or 3 best programs in the country. John Cooper did not.
Exactly.
So that's in Ryan Day's favor. However, John Cooper, once he got it, it took him about 5 years to get Ohio State going. Yeah, he lost to Michigan 10 times, not 3 times. He lost to them 10 times. And the 2 times that he defeated them, only one of those 2 was consequential to the national landscape. John Cooper won 70% of his games. Ryan Day's winning close to 90% of his games.
Well, because I got a little something for some of those naysayers that are kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater on Ryan Day. I can name you some coaches that have had some great records, but bad records against rivals. Dabo Swinney, when Steve Spurrier was coaching at South Carolina, he only won twice against Spurrier, once in 2008, once 2014. And Harbaugh, I know, had a bad record against the Buckeyes until 2021. Bear Bryant was pretty bad against Tennessee when he was coaching at Kentucky. Tom Osborne had a bad record against Barry Switzer.
Yep.
Ara Parseghi, that's another one. He had a horrendous, dreadful record against USC. And the only year they beat USC that didn't end in a natty was 1965.
Yeah, that is all true. Dabo Swinney lost 5 consecutive games to South Carolina before ripping off 8 or 9 straight before last year. I would have to look up Aris Parseghi's record against USC. I know he was at Notre Dame, I believe, from 1964 through 74, something like that. Those were the years.
Yep, he only had 3 wins against USC.
3-7.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, 2 of them were ties.
You will ever see in the 70s.
Well, and 2 of them were ties. I believe one of them was in 68.
Okay.
And one of them was 69 or 70. I'll have to look it
So
up
it's like
again.
3,
but
6, and 2.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Tom Osborne. Hey, if Ohio State fans who are all over Ryan Day were around in the 1970s and mid 80s for Tom Osborne was the head coach at Nebraska from, I believe, 1973 and did not win a national championship until 1994. Now, you bring up the name Tom Osborne now, and everybody thinks dominant program, dominated the 90s, won 3 national championships. Yeah, he won 3 national championships in his 4 last years on the job. He had great teams, did remarkable things, consistently was playing Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship or the Big 8 championship at the time, but could rarely get over the hump. I would have to guess at his record, but I know at one point it was like 3-11 against Oklahoma, something like that. And of course, he could have kicked in the Orange Bowl against Miami and won the national championship, could have taken the easy way out, but he wanted to seal the win and go down in history as an undefeated champion. So then he had to wait another 10 years, 11 years to finally win a national championship. So yeah, people look at Bobby Bowden, anybody who wants to get on Ryan Day, and Ryan Day may never win a national championship. I have no idea. He has certainly shown that he's capable of winning one. But anyway, look at Bobby Bowden, look at Tom Osborne, those 2 guys in particular, and how long it took them to win a national championship. And they are all-time legends.
Yeah. I mean, if they were coaching in today's age, they wouldn't be lasting long, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they would or not. It depends on what the administration would. They wouldn't be lasting in this social media age, is what they wouldn't be lasting through. It would all depend on who their bosses were.
For sure. But I will say, if Ryan Day and Harbaugh are staying,
Yep.
this has the makings of a 2020 edition Hollywood reboot of a 10-year war. I mean,
Yes.
I think we could see something like that.
Well, yes. These programs look like they're not stopping anytime soon.
Nope. But, probably next year we'll probably see them play twice. But looking at Ohio State's playoff situation, they will need Texas to lose the Big 12 title game. And they will definitely be having to pull for Florida tonight against Florida State on ESPN.
Yeah, there's so many dominoes that need to fall.
Yeah. I think it could. I'm not saying it will, but it could happen. And as of right now, as I'm looking on my phone, Alabama's winning 10-7 with 11 minutes left in the second quarter. Now, if Bama winds up getting knocked off by Auburn, that's good for Ohio State.
Yes.
So
well, yeah, if they can get Louisville to knock off Florida State or Florida to knock off Florida State, whatever, the ACC to be erased, Texas needs to lose the Big 12. Washington needs to win the Pac-12 and just close it out with an undefeated season and then have Georgia beat Bama. Then you're going to have Georgia, Washington, Michigan, Ohio State.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would not surprise me if we see Michigan, Ohio State both in the playoffs again like we did last year.
Well, it's going to take some heavy lifting, so I'm not banking on it in any such way.
Well, we've definitely seen some crazy things happen, and especially
yes, you are right.
Especially in the wonderful world of college football.
Yes, I would have to go back 1 year to watch this same post game and see what I had to say about Ohio State's chances to make the playoffs. I don't remember what I had to say. I just think it was a clearer path. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the path was much easier last year, but this year's path is much harder. But nobody's saying it can't be done.
Yeah. Well, they have nothing to do with it. So It's going to have to be done by others.
That is true. And Mark, thank you for having me on. And I'm sorry that your Buckeyes lost. And as for the Michigan people, congratulations on a fine victory. And the other Ohio State fans on the chat, I'm sorry that you guys lost for a third straight year.
All right, Jackson, have a good one.
You too. Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out.
All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Let me pick up these super chats before we take our next call. Oh, here we go. Right. Let's see. I'm behind. All right, Taylor. I just got on and missed how you feel about the Wilson touchdown interception debate, how it affected the game. Let's see, that was sent about 25 minutes ago. So hopefully, Taylor, I answered your questions. A reasonable football rule book would not negate that as a touchdown. Let me say that. Okay. So check back. If you missed, we talked about it plenty, and I talked about it at halftime. But thank you so much for the contribution. Wolverine, Alaska, great win. This game stressed my heart, but it was costly. Yeah, Zach Zinter goes down. We'll see what the deal is with Will Johnson and his ankle. One of the best cornerbacks in the nation, one of the best offensive linemen in the nation. We've got GT. Here we go with the playoff talk. Yeah, Ohio State fans cannot let go of the hopes of winning a national championship. Believe me. So they're going to figure out any equation possible. All right, GT is saying, Mark, what do you think the chances are of the Buckeyes making the playoff now? Seems like less than last year. Yes, absolutely, much less. I think Alabama would get in first if they beat Georgia, even with a worse loss, in my opinion. Yes, need Alabama to lose. Georgia, just clean out the SEC. Washington, just clear out the Pac-12. Texas needs to lose the Big 12 championship game. The ACC needs to rid itself of Florida State. And that is your clearest path. So you need about 5 or 6 results. So the odds of that happening are next to nil. But it is possible. We've got Mustang Mateo. Thank you for the contribution. Appreciate that. Dan with the 5 spot. Thank you. Dude, stop with the Michigan cheated. Let it go. Michigan won today. Are you talking to me, Dan? I did not bring up the Michigan cheated. Did not bring that up. That was brought up. I basically, yes, confirmed we know Michigan cheated. And then said, we will not talk about that. We don't need to talk about it. We'll be talking about it for the next year. But we do know that they cheated. Okay. That's all there is to it. No asterisk. 3 in a row. Do we need to relive every questionable advantage? I don't know what ACAT means. Every questionable advantage. There were no advantages except what's been done in the past. And again, hopefully that's sorted out to the degree that it needs to be sorted out. So, yeah, when your team and your program cheats, that doesn't make you a bad person. Just admit to what the evidence is showing us. All right. We don't know it to what extent, but we do know that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh accepted a 3-game suspension. So I don't know of any program, any team, or any coach that would accept a penalty or a discipline if they did not know that there was something to it. Correct? Did anybody ever penalize you, give you something in regards to a work penalty or anything like that, a suspension, and it was not warranted, and you just said, okay, I accept it? All right. We've got Mowerman USA. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the contribution. First and foremost, Mark, you are a class act. Thank you. I'm a lifelong Michigan fan for all the same reasons as your friend Steve Dace. Great day for guys like us. Anyway, Mark, very much enjoy your work. We know what he said after that. Everybody can read it on the screen. Mowerman, thank you so much for that. That's very classy of you as well. So thank you for that. Mike, Ohio State fans doing the math on how Ohio State is pathetic. How do you do math on somebody being pathetic? I'm not following you. Y'all can't win your conference, can't win division. You can beat Rudy and Penn State. Please stop. All right. These kind of comments, if you're responding to what I have to say, then I think you're completely out of line and you need to call the show and clarify for me what I'm saying that's so pathetic. If you're responding to fans on social media, then yes, shoot, I do that all the time. They're pathetic fans everywhere. Michigan fans, Ohio State fans, Notre Dame fans, Miami fans, they're all pathetic. At least each fan base has those type of fans. So, Mike, if you have an issue with, you're saying Ohio State fans, so fine. I guess this is Mike's declaration and message to all of you Ohio State fans who are doing math. I would hope that we would continue to do math in this country because it's a depleting skill for sure. Dan, one unspoken disadvantage that Michigan and Ohio State have going into bowl season in the playoffs is that every game subsequent is a bit of a step down. Okay. That's what you consider a disadvantage. I would consider that a major excuse. If you can't basically regroup after 4 weeks to play a postseason game and make the excuse that it just can't live up to Ohio State and Michigan, well, that is true. It's not as important, and the intensity is not the same unless it's possibly a playoff game. But every school in the country that plays a rivalry game on the final weekend of the season could make that same excuse. Alabama, there's no way that they could ever play a game that has the intensity or the focus in the state of Alabama as the Iron Bowl. But would they make that excuse? I would hope not, for losing in the playoffs. Okay, and then finally, Mike comes back with math on how Ohio State can make the playoffs. Mike, they're fans. I'm a fan. You're a fan. We're going to be fans. If your team is used to going to the playoffs and being a factor on the national scene, and we're not talking about a 9-3 team here. They're 11-1. They just lost by that much against what some people would say is the best team in the country. They lost by that much. Then it's only natural that they are going to try to figure out a way that they can get into the playoffs. I don't see the problem with that. I don't see any issue with that. Okay. Yeah. Why take that away from them? You would be doing the same exact thing. All right. Let's go to Free Harbaugh.
Hey man, what's going on, man?
Not too much. How
Hey,
you doing?
let me play this real quick.
Yeah, bye. Not going to listen to that crap. All right, Will, how you doing? I can only
Doing
take so
good.
much.
I understand.
And if you got me demonetized by playing that, then I'll not let him on for like a year. All right, Will, how's it going?
Doing good, Mark. Before I talk about the game, I have to give credit to my guy Ben Morrison for holding Marvin Harrison to 32 yards. I mean, I thought they should have tried to get him the ball more. I mean, I obviously know one of the times they did with the first interception, but
Yeah, I'd kind of have to review the game. He caught 5.
I feel like
and-
5 wasn't enough in like a big game like this. But
No, I was hoping more in the 8 to 10 range. I said that
yeah.
earlier. And I got to think the targets were probably not even twice the 5. So they probably threw it to him. Yeah, 8, 9, 10 times, something in that range.
Like when I saw that interception that Michigan made at the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, we had like it was a harder interception, but if he would have caught the DJ Brown would have caught that pick, but it is what it is.
Wait a minute. When Michigan made the last interception, you lost me.
Well, there was one that passed on the Ohio State's drive that it was a high pass, but it went right through like the Irish safety's hands.
Oh,
And that
you're
would've
talking
ended
about
the
the Notre
game.
Dame game. Yes.
Yeah,
I know what you're
but
talking about. Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, so if you're Ryan Day and you're like didn't grow up a Ohio State fan like you did, would you like be tempted to move to A&M?
Yes.
Just because, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, I
That's what I
would.
was thinking.
Absolutely, I
Mhm.
would. Texas A&M doesn't play a game every year that they have to win. There's a 12-team playoff starting, which of course he's going to enjoy that at Ohio State as well. But you're following, let's face it, a failure in Jimbo Fisher. So you're following a
Mhm.
succession of underachievement. Kevin Sumlin, Jimbo Fisher, and on before that. So you're following a lot of 8-5, 9-4 forever. They would love Ryan Day going 11-1 at Texas A&M. And again, if Ryan Day goes 11-1 and they lose to LSU the last game of the season, it's not treated in any such way like it is. Fresh start, doesn't have to. He's got to deal with this loss now for 365 days. It doesn't matter what they do between now and playing next Thanksgiving weekend. They can beat whoever's on the schedule by 50 points. Who do they have in the Pac-12? Oregon and whomever else is coming over, and win all these big games. And it's going to be important because it's going to have to be done to get them back to where they want to be. But people are not going to embrace him until he wins one of these games. And shoot, a lot of people won't embrace him until he gets back to having a winning record against Michigan.
Well, that's too much.
Yeah,
But
it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I can relate to that because that's how I treated this game for most of my life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this Michigan team's better than the last two Michigan teams?
That's a great question. I did for most of the season until they started to have offensive line issues, but their corner play is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
And their double tight end situation, especially with Loveland being as good as he is, and I know he was there last year, and he was just starting to come on as a major impact player at the end of last year. Yeah, that's a great question. I would tend to think that I believe that there's no question they're better than the 21 team with Cade McNamara at quarterback.
Oh yeah, definitely with JJ,
Yeah.
they're better at quarterback for sure.
But are they better than last year? I tend to think they're a little bit better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ohio State's better.
Ohio State, I did. Well, it's just if they had CJ, I think they could win the national championship if they had CJ back.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. If they could have kept him around with everything else they added, oh, my word. I think they could win a national championship with Kyle McCord. Call me crazy, but if they were put in the playoffs, I would have a lot of confidence that they could win 2 games.
I have this question isn't relative to this year's game, but it just popped into my head. I've been wanting to ask you. Do you think if Ohio State had Brady Quinn instead of Troy Smith, they could have beaten Florida?
No, they got rocked in that game.
Okay, that's what.
And obviously, Troy Smith was a more mobile quarterback. Brady Quinn proved to be, obviously, he was a serviceable NFL quarterback. Yeah, I don't think there was that great a distinction between those two players. And at the time, I thought Troy Smith was a better player.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It'll be. You don't think that Iowa has any better of a chance? Do you think that Iowa's better than they were in 21? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's that much of a difference. I still don't think the game will be competitive. But
man, they are so close to what they've been the last 2 years and what they were 2 years ago. Deacon Hill, Spencer Petras, they're both pretty bad. No distinguishing running back. You know, Le'Shawn Williams is playing well, but are there 10 other running backs in the Big Ten that are better than he is? Yes. Do they have any wide receivers that are, you know, I was talking to Corey the other day, and he was trying to size up whether he wanted to see Michigan or Ohio State. And I was just letting him know because he was saying, well, with Cooper DeJean out, Um, the Marvin Harrison matchup would be difficult, but I would rather he thought that with Cooper DeJean still in the game that he could negate Marvin Harrison to a certain extent, and that he would rather play Ohio State because he thought Michigan was a better team. But I said, with all due respect, the rest of Ohio State's wide receiver core are all better players than everybody Iowa's seen this season, even after Marvin Harrison Jr. So,
I think they need to use Cooper DeJean both ways. That's why That's what I
I
always
think they
wanted.
should too.
That's what I've always wanted Iowa to
Absolutely.
do.
And
Yeah.
they've been asked about that. Kirk Ferentz has been asked about that.
Oh, he
and he
has?
always makes an excuse about he already has too much of a workload. You don't need to throw him out there for 50 plays, just like a dozen plays, and get the ball in his hands 3 or 4 times. And then just his presence, and this is null and void, obviously, since he's out, just his presence, though, would open it up for the other 6 or 7 plays he was on the field that you didn't get him the ball.
Yeah. I also think they should run it with Deacon Hill a bit, especially on short yards. I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he is a big guy. Like, Deacon Hill looks like George Blanda from like the 1970s, like old NFL quarterbacks who'd been Sonny Jurgensen, who'd been around for like 17 seasons with a gut hanging out. It's hilarious.
What was that one quarterback for the Giants? Really big guy.
Oh, Jared Lorenzen.
Yes.
That went to Kentucky.
Yes.
That had about 50 different nicknames, and I can't think of any of them right now. One of them was about Pillsbury. Yeah, I can't think of them.
Well, Mark, I'm going to go enjoy my rivalry weekend. Auburn looks like they're giving Bama all they can handle. They just had a huge run, and they're in the red zone now. Could take the lead. So
very good. I hope they cover.
Yeah.
All right, Will. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks so much, Mark.
All right, we will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We got Jeffrey on the line.
Hey, Jeffrey. Mark, how you doing today?
Good.
I mean, I cannot believe this day of college football. It's unbelievable. All these results, Ohio State and Michigan, what a game. I'm Ohio State fan. I think it's so funny, though, when you talk about looking at Ryan Day again and how they're saying that he's not good, he's struggling. I just don't understand this. It's unbelievable. It was a close loss. You cannot look at that and say Ryan Day has to go. It was a close loss. It was a fantastic game, but he's nowhere near that point. I mean, we talked about it last night, but Ryan Day should not even be talked about of getting fired and all whatsoever.
Yeah, there are 2 coaches that have better records than Ryan Day over the course of his coaching tenure, and that's Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. Not even Dabo Swinney does. Lincoln Riley, Jim Harbaugh, James Franklin, whomever you want to throw out there. So I don't. I understand it. This game is that important, and Ohio State fans desperately want to win this game and don't want to hear it all year. So I get it. I've been there, but you can't negate all of the positive things that he's done with these 3 losses.
Man, I 100% agree. I mean, when I look at, Michigan football in this game, I just feel like, they played really hard without Harbaugh. Like they were destined to try to win the game. I know there's no such thing as destiny and all that, but like it was just they played really hard. Ohio State had a chance and they fell short. It was almost like the inverse of the Notre Dame game because Ohio State could have lost that game, but they ended up winning. In this one, they didn't. Kyle McCord throws the pick, in the other game, he pulled out the win at the end. But it's crazy. But yeah, I'm really happy for Michigan fans. Obviously all the heartache they went through online and everything with the scandal and all that. It's kind of cool for them, but I hate it for Buckeye fans and you, Mark, that Ohio State didn't win as well. But it was a really great game. But a couple other things. I know this is Ohio State, Michigan. That's why I almost didn't call in because I know you have the show tonight. There's so much stuff happening right now. I got to talk about really quick about Jonathan Smith. I don't know if you're going to do a live stream on it by itself, but I feel really bad for Clint Mose, Connor Johnson, all the Beaver fans. That's a back-breaking loss. If they do not join a power league and Jonathan Smith, him being gone, and they can't hire a coach of his, I guess we didn't know how good he was going to be when he got hired, but of his caliber, they're done. They're absolutely history. They're going to fall behind, and they're going to be never heard from again outside of maybe if they win the Mountain West. I'm just saying, like, they're not going to be able to compete on the level of the Power 4 conferences, Big 12, ACC, Big 10, SEC. It's just over if they do not join a power league and they can't hire a comparable coach. That's why he's gone, because he knows Oregon State's basically in trouble. Their history, if they cannot join a power league, he doesn't obviously believe they are. Michigan State paid him a lot more, which is nothing wrong with that. Getting paid more, going to a bigger job, that's awesome stuff. I'm never upset when a coach does that. It sucks for a smaller program, but I don't blame him for leaving to go to Michigan State. But it just feels like for everybody trying to hope for Oregon State's, best interest that they can survive this, this just seems like another step that they're not going to be able to fix this. They're not going to get into a power league. They're going to fall into the Mountain West, and they're just never going to really be heard from again at a competitive standpoint at the top of college football. Not that they really are, because, you're talking about Alabama, Georgia, and all that, but you know what I mean. It does stink for Oregon State. Happy for Michigan State fans, though.
Yeah. I did not know that was in the works until a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan State did about as well as they could to recover from that Mel Tucker situation, because Jonathan Smith is amazing and he's an exceptional coach. And for them to be able to lure him away, and they just fell into a great situation themselves by what's going on at Oregon State. I wouldn't be so quick to damn Florida State or Oregon State to the abyss for the rest of history, but
I get that,
because other things have happened. If you would look through the history of college football, many people believe that this realignment is not over, but it's not good. I'm not in any way trying to minimize it. It's a punch in the gut, a double punch in the gut. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think their history for sure, like completely, but it just feels so close, like they're teetering on the edge. And it's sad because obviously I never knew any Oregon State fans until, I found your community a couple years ago. And it's, again, a fantastic community of people. And I do, really like the Oregon State fans in chat. And it's just, it just feels really bad for them. That's all I can say about that. Something else I want to bring up really quick. You mentioned Deacon Hill. He reminds me of Nate Stanley, but shorter. He's like Nate Stanley, just big back there in the pocket, but Nate Stanley was way better at passing the ball than Deacon Hill. I'm just talking about like body type, they're similar. It's just really interesting that when you mentioned, I forgot to mention this last night. I had it written down. I forgot to mention it. When you talked about with that one guy that was talking about Iowa went 10-2 and they fired their OC, and same with Penn State last night, it made me laugh because it's like, yeah, but why did they go 10-2? Was it the offense? No, it was the defense and their special teams and just enough offense every now and then. No, their offense is terrible. That's not why they went 10-2. The Steelers fired their offensive coordinator in the pros and they were going 6-4. It's not because of the offense. Even the kicker said that it's not because of you, offensive coordinator. So just because your record's good doesn't mean that, offensive coordinator is doing a good job. That's why he's fired. They went 10-2, and they know joining with these new teams in the Big Ten that the divisions are gone. Iowa's in big trouble as well. They're going to fall behind. They're going to go 6-6, 7-5, even though Corey disagrees with me. In the Big Ten, if their offense doesn't get better, that's why they fired their offensive coordinator. But I just wanted to bring up the Deacon Hill, Nate Stanley.
Well, if Iowa had the offensive production that Penn State has, they wouldn't be firing Brian Ferentz.
Oh, no. Of course, because their standards are lower. Penn State standards are higher. They want to be Ohio State, Michigan. They're not doing it. And that's why they got rid of him. It's crazy. Another thing really quick, because I know you probably got a bunch of people in chat. I'm sorry about not coming on immediately. Usually I'm ready to go, but I was like in another room because of the fact that, you had a lot of callers. So I thought I'd be further down the line. But, yeah, you talk about Louisville. I didn't want to do it. I don't like, I guess I won't say rag on a fan base, but I like Louisville fans. I know Austin. He's fantastic. Friend and everything and his team and stuff, but I knew Louisville wasn't that good. I should have picked Kentucky. I should have done it. I was this close. I picked Louisville to win by like 3, and Kentucky wins. Terrible Kentucky. They've been awful all year, and they beat Louisville, and Louisville's out of the playoff conversation. They never were in it, but it's funny to me because people thought Louisville was a top 10 team, and they're not a top 10 team. A top 10 team does not lose to Kentucky at home. They just don't do that. I mean, that was just funny to me.
Yeah, well, we had about 3 people call or write in the chat last night. Is there any way that possible that Kentucky could beat Louisville? And I was like, yeah,
Yes. Of
course
course,
they
they were
can.
like, people were telling me there was no way
Those 2
Kentucky would
teams
win,
are
and
like
I'm like,
that.
Kentucky, it looks bad because they're in the SEC. They've lost to Bama. They've lost to Georgia. What if Kentucky was in the ACC, played Louisville schedule? They might have the same record for all we know. I mean,
They
they
might.
could be 10-1 like Louisville was.
Yeah, they were playing Virginia and Georgia Tech every week. Like,
That's
and
why
and
people don't
Louisville
understand. The
obviously
schedules
missing
are
North
different.
Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State.
I can't stand the argument that you are what your record says you are. No, you are not. Indiana is a bad football team. They are bad, but they lost their last 3 games by 1 score to Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State. If they win those 3 games, if those results are flipped, they make a bowl game. People still are going to think Indiana's terrible. Again, they're not a good team, but neither's Boston College, and they're going bowling because they beat up on Army and UConn and Northern. I talked about last night.
Yeah.
Your record is not indicative of anything. It's who you beat. It's who you play. That's why your top 25, it actually makes sense that you have on your jacket right there. Fantastic merchandise, by the way, at the Voice of College Football store. But the thing is that your top 25 makes sense because you base off who you play. Your Louisville is not a top 10 team just because they won 10 games. They were never a top 10 team. They were a top 20-ish team. At best, at the absolute best, and no one believed me until now. And I'm just glad that I'm not glad they lost, but I'm just glad people realize it now. But I hate when people say they were frauds. They're not frauds. They just played a bad schedule, won their games, and now people realize they couldn't beat a marginal SEC team on their own field.
I remember that phrase being uttered first in the NFL, where it makes total sense. You are what your record is.
But how did it bleed over into college football? Because in the NFL, it makes a bit more sense because you play
a lot more
fair schedules. But in college football, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, how many years have we seen Clemson, win all their games and they've played no one? Like if Clemson was in the SEC or the Big Ten, they would not have won all their games. It's not that Clemson wasn't good. They won 2 national titles under Dabo, but some of those years, they were not great. They just kept getting by against Georgia Tech and North Carolina. They beat North Carolina that one year because North Carolina didn't get a 2-point conversion, and Carolina was a 6-win team. And Clemson's like, we're really good. It's like, no, you're not. You're not elite. You're just winning, and your record's pristine because of the fact that you're playing garbage football teams. It just isn't. I don't understand it. We're in 2023 and people have metrics and data, which metrics and data, no rankings are perfect. No data is perfect, but you just look at teams and can say a team, because I had a lot of people tell me like LSU was a lot worse than Louisville. Louisville's better. I'm like, LSU's better than Louisville on paper. Does it mean that Louisville could not beat LSU in a football game? No, Louisville could, but LSU's a better team on paper, and they would win more out of times out of 10. People use that phrase. I don't even like that phrase either, but it's just the way that it is. I mean, Louisville probably will beat Kentucky 6 out of the 10 times, but Kentucky proved that Louisville was not an elite team because Louisville couldn't win the game. And Louisville struggled against Indiana, NC State, Georgia Tech, Virginia, etc., and they lost to Pitt. No team in the top 10 is losing to Pitt. Absolutely no one. Alabama would not lose to Pittsburgh. I mean, anything's possible, but they're not losing to Pittsburgh.
No.
No. I mean, that's the funny thing about it. That's why I love college football, because these conversations start. And if you join that hill, if someone says, well, Louisville's a part of the great in college football this year, and then I was on the argument that they weren't, and then people take sides and they, and all that, and then it finally shakes itself out.
I am pretty confident Alabama could take its first line of starters off the field on both sides of the ball and play all second team players and beat Pitt.
They would destroy Pitt. And the thing is, I had a lot of Louisville fans saying to me that if Alabama played Louisville in the bowl game, if they were in the New Year's Six game, Louisville would win. And I said, yeah, if Alabama had a lot of opt-outs, Louisville could win. Just like Cincinnati almost beat Georgia when Georgia had all those opt-outs. But if Alabama had a full team, there's no way Louisville is beating Alabama with all the starters in. Would even be close, more than likely, most of the time. It would not be a close game. It's not, again, nothing against Louisville. Brom did a great job, but they're just, again, not a great team. Alabama's better. Like you said, Alabama in your mind is still a part of the top 4 teams in college football, even though they lost, and they're struggling right now against Auburn. But they're just not great. Louisville's not, and Alabama's just better.
Yes. when people bring up transitive property doesn't work, I completely agree with that. That doesn't mean that there isn't some truth to it. Obviously, you're comparing scores between teams, so there's some truth to it. What does make sense is a resume. Looking at the team and their results and their level of dominance against the opponents for 5, 6, 7, 10 weeks, 12 weeks at this point. That's what matters. And your record is part of that. It's a portion of that. But then you have to, yes, extend it out to who did you play?
I agree. I mean, if Indiana played Boston College schedule, there's a good chance they go 6-6 at least.
Sure.
Good chance. It doesn't, I'm not saying they would, because there'll be people in chat saying right now, no, they wouldn't. They go 4-8. They could, because they played competitively against Louisville, Penn State, Purdue. They should have beaten, but they blew the game. I mean, again, they blew the game. I agree. They're not great. They would have won these games if they were better, but they almost beat Illinois. They almost beat Michigan State. They were very close. So, and against BC's schedule, they would have done better. Like I said, tons of people behind me, but last question. Do you think that Tom Allen's done? Because I don't think he's going to get fired. I really don't. $20 million buyout. It drops to $8 million next year, but everybody on Twitter is saying Tom Allen's going to be fired tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen.
So I take it that they lost today.
They did lose to Purdue 35-31 at the end. They again, so close. Like the last 3 games, they lost by 1 score every time. They're like Nebraska now.
So they finished 4-8?
3-9.
3-9.
But they were competitive against 5 teams: Louisville, Penn State, Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue. Lost by 1, scored all of them.
And they finished 1-8 in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe they are now 2-25 in the Big Ten the last 3 years.
Something like that. His record was 24-22 after the 2020 season, which was better than Jonathan Smith's 34-35 at Oregon State. But again, did a remarkable job out there, miraculous at Oregon State. But Tom Allen's record now is like 33-48. It's regressed hard, but he's got a $20 million buyout, and they almost won all those games this year. I know they didn't win, but to me, at a program like IU, which again shows you that they don't prioritize football, I just don't think they're going to fire him, because, I mean, I think I've talked to you now for a year and a half. You know, the first time I called you was like last March, 2022, and it's been a fantastic last year and a half, all the conversations we've had about it. But you said to me then you didn't think Tom Allen was going to get fired, but it's getting close.
Well, that was a long time ago.
It's getting close, but still, I think he's good.
How long have we talked? 2 football seasons or 1?
Mm-hmm. And they've lost. It's been 2 years.
That's a lot's transpired since then.
But it's Indiana, and he's got a $20 million buyout.
2-10, 4-8, 3-9 the last 3 years. And I have stated myself that and posted videos to say if he doesn't do something significant this year, and Indiana significant means get to a bowl game, that he's going to get fired. I think he's going to get fired. So
you think Indiana football is going to fire and give him $20 million? Because to me, I just can't wrap my head around that. $20 million at Indiana.
Indiana football, especially starting in 2024, is going to be earning more in TV revenue than every school in the country except for 17.
But who are they going to get? Who are they going to hire?
If Indiana doesn't take football more seriously, the Big Ten should say bye.
So again, you're using that logic, like, because you told me Indiana wasn't going to leave they weren't going to kick him out of the Big Ten, but you're saying that the Big Ten should use it against them. Like, if you're not going to win, we're going to get rid of you. So it's like to put pressure on them to win.
Somebody's going to lose games in the Big Ten, but if they're not taking football that seriously, where they're going to allow a coach to go 9-27 and go 2-25 in the Big Ten.
They were this close to being 7-5 though this year.
Yeah.
I'm like the last defender of Tom Allen. I realize that at every other school in college football, he'd be fired right now. I get it. It's Indiana. They gave him the big contract, $20 million. But I do agree, though, because the changing landscape, that's why Michigan State hired Jonathan Smith. These teams want to win. They want to win now. They know they have to do things, better, or they're going to fall behind, even if they are in the 2 big club conferences, SEC, Big Ten. If you don't do the things you got to do, I get it. Indiana should fire Tom Allen. I hate it because love Tom Allen's energy, especially when they were winning 3 or 4 years ago. But like you said, it's been 3 or 4 years ago. But who are they going to get? Who's going to want to coach at Indiana? I just don't know.
Energy is only about 10 or 15% of the equation of getting the job done. So he needs to add a lot more to the energy, and he's already proven that that's not going to happen. So he needs to be fired.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. I'll definitely talk to you about it if he does get fired. You know, like what you think, like who's going to get hired? Because I have no idea. I can't even wrap my mind. Because people keep saying Jason Candle at Toledo, but you're going to fire a guy for $20 million and hire a MAC coach. It's nothing against Jason Candle. He's done a great job at Toledo, but a MAC coach, would he work? Billy Napier's not working at Florida right now, even though he's recruiting like crazy. But I don't know. It's interesting because Indiana, to me, if you're going to fire him, you have to hire the right guy. You got to get someone that's actually going to get you 6 wins, or otherwise keep Allen. Because, I mean, you're going to lose, you know, if you hire a bad coach and then you're just out more money.
Why are you concerned with Indiana's finances?
I don't know. I mean,
I think you would be more concerned with them winning football games. You're a fan. You're not running their budget.
That's why I think they're a hilarious program, that they've been in existence for over 100 years, and they're the losingest program in the Power 5. And they've gone through a myriad of terrible coaches that haven't won anything. And they finally got a couple of decent coaches, and the last one resigned in Kevin Wilson. And now with Tom Allen, he did good enough to get a big contract that Indiana's never had before. And now Indiana's going to have the biggest buyout in history by far. I mean, they usually fire coaches and only have like $3 million left on their deal. $2 million left. This is $20 million. So it's just gonna be crazy. I'm not concerned. I mean, they're loaded. I mean, they can do what they want. Like you said, I think they're dumb if they don't fire them in a way, because you're basically resonating yourself that we're just gonna lose. So it is what it is. But you're right. I mean, I don't disagree.
There is no coach in the history of college football that has reversed from 2-25 in a conference or 9-27 to win anything significant. So it's just not gonna happen. He is not the answer. He's not the guy. Bye.
I agree. And
He's
I mean,
paid way
if he
too
was
much
better,
money.
they would have won these close games. They would have found a way to win these close games. I get it. And they didn't win, so something's wrong.
Yes.
And
this season was a gift. So he blew that. So.
Well, definitely, I won't be able to, I guess, talk about Tom Allen, since everybody, even Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, says it, so it must be true. He's gone. Tom Allen, I tried for years. I really did, but it's all over. We'll see if he gets fired, and hopefully Indiana, the losingest program in the Power 5, can win. Because right now, Alabama's strong. I need them to win. Family will be upset if they don't. But I need Indiana to win something. I need them to do something, because it's ugly right now. If not, they'll be Oregon State in a hurry. They'll be dropped out in a heartbeat.
All right, Jeffrey. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me on. I might call in later tonight, but I appreciate you for taking my thoughts. And I'm, again, sorry that Ohio State lost. Everybody like and subscribe to Mark, and we got more football today. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks, man. All right. One last super chat. I'm going to hand it over to John. No knock on Indiana football, but I think we lost like 50 people talking about Indiana football like in 3 minutes. So maybe I will do Indiana live streams that the 13 people that care can join us for that. And we'll even allow John, of course, to bring it back to a Michigan-centric discussion here. But before we get to John, want to remind everyone that cares about the SEC that we've got an SEC channel that we would love for you to check out. The links in the description section. And then also, Adam is asking me now where you rate Michigan. Mark! Top 25, that actually makes sense, comes out on Sunday. That's my answer. They will be ranked appropriately. How about that answer? There's the answer.
There it is.
They will be ranked ahead of Ohio State in my rankings. They will be ranked much below Ohio State in my heart. How about that, Adam?
Well, we appreciate the super chat, Adam.
Yes, thank you so much for that.
Well, Mark, it was a good game. I mean, probably I would argue the best of the three.
Oh, yes. No question.
Instant
just for
classic.
a football game, for people watching a football game. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely. It wasn't even close. Yes.
It wasn't a domination in the trenches by one team. Like Ohio State played the whole game. And I mean, I think CJ Stroud, or a similar level quarterback gets that touchdown in the end. It could be wrong, but I think I mean, I think it was so close, and like JJ just made a couple of NFL level throws on a rope between two defenders, and I think it was just that little bit of additional game experience. But like that was the closest game out of all three by far.
Absolutely, absolutely, it was. And we will live in the aftermath of it. And now it's on to the Big Ten championship game for Michigan.
Absolutely.
And it's on for Ohio State, most likely to play in a New Year's Six bowl and have a ton of opt-outs.
Well, yeah, that, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, you know, I keep saying, well, Michigan's losing the whole offense next year. Well, Ohio State's losing quite a bit too. I mean, and a lot of them are not going to. So I guess, you know, looking at a glass half full, they're going to get some game the people who are going to play next year, except for transfers and people coming in for their first year, they're going to get some game experience against probably Louisville. So.
And we know that this being the final regular season day, that Black Sunday, Black Monday is coming. There are going to be coaching changes. We've already seen Jonathan Smith go to your hated rival, Michigan State. That's a major coaching move out of them. The only question is, there are going to be major coaching moves in the next couple of days, but are there going to be like blow the top off, crazy, like monumental like coaching moves in the next couple days? We shall see.
Yep. Lots of rumors out there.
All right, John, thank you so much for taking over. Everybody stick here with John. He's going to go full throttle on Ohio State, Michigan. Wolverines win 30-24. So keep it right here. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Mark. And we are back for another episode of Michigan Postgame Live here at the Voice of College Football. And we are simulcasting on both Voice of College Football and the Michigan channel. My name's John Diadamo, and I'm going to take you through the rest of the show. For those of you in the chat who are asking, this is a Woodson jersey. It is not an Iowa jersey. I would never wear an Iowa jersey. Like, I don't know what y'all are. Maybe my camera is a little bit distorting the colors a bit. This is definitely a Woodson jersey, so no worries about that, folks. So before we get started, and I've already notified Dre, who should be joining us for the show. But obviously, this is a big victory. Michigan 30, Ohio State 24. The game. Michigan wins for the third year in a row. It just shatters pretty much every single narrative that we've seen. But I do want to start, and we're going to go through a bunch of takes, and then I'll take callers. Dr. C, I know you've been waiting a bit. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go through some takes first, and then I'm going to take callers one-on-one. And also, we want Dre to give his takes as well when he gets in. We want to start by saying prayers for Zach Zinner's full recovery. Just what an absolute legend he was in this game. He has put it all in for Michigan these last few years. And I hope, from what we've heard from Sharon Moore, I'm pulling up the news from the conference, the press conference as we speak. I tried to listen before the game, before I took over, but I wasn't able to get the tape on with enough time. But I did see that Sharon Moore says he was on the phone with his mom, and we got some positive news. No timeline for recovery, but that is absolutely massive. That he is gonna. It does sound positive. We also heard couple other things that I'm getting tweets on. Sharon Moore had said that there's never really pressure because the players are so prepared. The way that they attack things make you feel prepared. So that's obviously really huge. Just so many ramifications. Obviously, this is a playoff this leads to the playoff. Sharon Moore, an interim head coach, defeating Ryan Day. An interim head coach defeating Ryan Day. Absolutely massive. My first take is that Michigan looked like the more determined and experienced team on the field. While I do think that Ohio State played their best game of the three in the trenches, Michigan was the more determined and experienced team by far. I want to give special, there's going to be a lot of kudos given, but Blake Corum, he obviously wanted to be there really badly, and he made some great plays, made touchdowns, 13-yard runs when he needed to make 13-yard runs. Just an absolutely great game from a lot of people, but Blake Corum getting his chance to be in the game, that was absolutely huge. Sharon Moore's play calling. How about calling a Donovan Edwards quarterback pass and Alex Orji in the run game? We knew that he was saving plays for this game, but I didn't know that he would have entire packages based on Alex Orji. That was really something else. We know that Donovan Edwards can throw the football, but to just have that as a feature again, like it was in the Iowa game, is just it was really great to see that again. A couple of things that I pointed out in the notes here. Colston Loveland was automatic practically. I thought they should even use him more. But Colston Loveland is by far one of our best receivers in the passing game, and we saw that. He had the most receiving yards, 88 receiving yards and 5 receptions. That's a tight end, folks. It's not a wide receiver. It's a tight end. And he did that. So aggressive play calling, obviously. I'm going to give the Leaders and Best Award from the coach's standpoint to both Sharon Moore and Jesse Minner for the creative play calling, the use of motion. It looked a lot more like the first 8 games than the last 3. I just thought he did a really great job in play calling there. Again, I've already pointed out the Donovan Edwards pass, the Alex Orji run plays. He also just made some really tough 4th down decisions when they needed to happen, unlike Ryan Day, who chose to punt, chose to field goal to try to keep going. Sharon Moore made plays to win the game on 4th down, trusting, we all thought that he was going to go to Corum on that 1 4th down, and he does a play action to Loveland, which was one of the, I think, defining plays in the game. We also had, of course, on the defense, just some incredible playmakers. Will Johnson's interception was what I believe was one of the defining statements in this game. Early on, to pick McCord off like that was basically saying to Ohio State, we're better than you. You might have tried harder this year, and they did, but we're better than you. We're going to pick your quarterback off. And obviously the Rod Moore interception sealing the win at the end of the game, absolutely iconic. Because let's face it, Ohio State played their best game against Michigan this game since 2019. They matched us blow for blow for the most part, and it was really these 2 interceptions with Will Johnson and Rod Moore that really were the defining plays to make the momentum, really seal the momentum for Michigan. Leaders and Best Awards on the defense, Mike Sanderstill, Rod Moore, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and Quentin Johnson all had just really strong games. So a lot going on there. We do have our first caller. We're going to take some calls the next hour or 2. So call the show. We should also have, let's see if we can see if we can get Dre on as well. But we do have our first caller, Chris Foote.
Hey, John.
Chris, thanks for calling into Michigan Postgame Live. How are you?
How come you're picking Iowa to beat Michigan in the championship game?
Oh, I am not at all.
You're wearing an Iowa jersey.
I am not wearing an Iowa jersey.
It
This
just is
is-
probably
this
the way
is-
my it looks sort of like it is, but that's okay, I guess.
Yeah,
Tyler,
no, this is
number 2.
a Charles Woodson jersey.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I didn't catch the game, to be honest with you. I'm sorry. So I can't really ask you anything about that. But do you have what do you think about the playoff? Do you think there should be 2 Big Ten teams selected?
No, it's gonna. I don't think Ohio State's getting in unless Washington loses this one to Washington State, and Alabama loses to Auburn, which it looks like Washington's taken a lead 14-7. I think whoever wins that championship, Washington or Oregon, are going to be in the playoff. I think Georgia's going to be in the playoff. If Alabama beats Georgia, they're going to be in the playoff. And then, of course, Michigan has sealed a playoff spot unless they lose to Iowa somehow. I do think you have to beat Iowa to
obviously
to win to be in the playoffs. So my guess would be Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, because I think Oregon's going to beat Washington, and right now I'm going to say Alabama, but you never know. Could be someone else. Could be Florida State. I don't think Ohio State's backing in.
Seems like there's a little bit, more competition at the top maybe than from what I remember it being last year. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, 11-0, five teams were 11-0 going into this game.
Yeah.
So
the other, if you don't mind, and I don't want to take the attention off of Michigan. I know that's what we're supposed to be talking about. I didn't catch the game. That's the only thing is I can't really say much about it. But, I did have them just for information's sake. And I don't know if it really matters, but I rated them number 1. Actually, from the very first time, from the first game, I think they've been my top team the whole season. So it wasn't like a big surprise to me to see them win, even though I kind of thought they might. I didn't know what Ohio State might do, but I kind of expected actually. Well, I didn't really know, but I was kind of hoping Michigan would win, so I was happy about that.
Well, I'm glad you were rooting for Michigan. That means a lot. Yeah, I mean, just based on the fact that Michigan, there were so many things going against Michigan this year, right? Michigan didn't have their head coach for game day, so it was Sharon Moore who was doing head coach responsibilities, offensive coordinator responsibilities, and offensive line responsibilities. It's very rare that head coaches that have to also do those win a game like this. I challenge the historians to let me know when the last time was that you win a top 3 matchup with also having to balance OC and O line.
I don't know.
You're the historian among us, so you might have an idea, but
I just have interest in the game. I'm not really. In fact, the information I get really is just it's information I get from other places. I'm not a historian at all. That's really not what I do. I want to be, I guess, if that's what you're asking. But are you asking whether or not there's ever been other cases where a head coach was replaced with and still they still beat the other team? Is that what you're saying?
Or not even replaced, but the head coach also having to balance calling the offense and also the offensive line. It's probably a couple decades, if I were to guess.
No idea. I can't answer that for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good, man. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably, that 4th spot's the one that's questionable. Ohio State needs a lot of help to get in. I think that's the bottom line.
It'll be interesting to see because, like I said, I don't know if I made it clear or not, but what I do is I take the information that's on an independent website and I'm able to turn it into a percentage. Yeah. And the 2 teams I had at the top were Ohio State and Michigan. So actually kind of what this might have been was like a national championship game in the regular season. I don't know if people want to look at it like that, but that's how I see it. It actually might have decided who won the net. I mean, maybe a little getting too far ahead of myself, but if what I do has any validity to it, John, it should have picked who the national championship's going to be. You might, I don't know. I'm not a jinx Michigan though. I don't want to jinx them, but I think
I appreciate that.
yeah, no, and I'm not trying to be like I don't really have favorites, so it's like I'm not like saying okay, well, it's not like I don't want Georgia or you said Alabama, Washington, any of those teams. It's not that I don't have any, if they can do it, great, but yeah, I think they're behind the 8 ball. It puts Michigan. It's like running in a race or once you get that pole position, maybe it's like pole position. You earn that pole position, and if it's up to other people to show that they can beat you at that point. So it's almost like they're at even though I know it's not the pole positions at the beginning, but this is kind of like it's kind of like giving Michigan their, if they don't win the national championship, then they really have nobody to blame but themselves. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely. So there's 2 rumors that I was going to talk about here. So there's a rumor from Bruce Feldman, and I've actually heard it not just from him, but from a couple of sources that Ryan Day is considering taking the Texas A&M job for approximately $16 million a year. So if you're Ryan Day, Chris, and you just lost your 3rd straight Ohio State game, would you want to stay for another 364 days and deal with that? Or would you want to go to a program where if you win 11 games a year, you might get a statue?
I can't really, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know enough about that to tell you what. To me, it's a lateral move. I'll just put it this way. I look at that as being a lateral move. Call me stupid, whatever. I don't know. Is it a better move? I don't know. I don't really look at it. I mean, what's it like? I don't know what it's like either place, to be honest with you. I don't know that that's a step up or down. So I look at it as a lateral move. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be like a bad decision, but I don't know enough about what the program's like at, what is it, College Station? I've never been there. I don't know if it's a better situation or what's their history. I don't know that. To me, I always thought that Ohio State I have them rated number 1 as far as history. So you say historian. To me, that's a step down then. That would almost be like a step down.
I say Chris Foote, historian. But I will say this. There was a private jet tracker about a week ago. It was a private jet tracker that was tracking that there was a private jet that was going from Columbus to College Station.
I see.
And my thoughts were it was either Ryan Day or it was Urban Meyer. But with Urban Meyer traveling around for Big Noon kickoff, I think it was probably Ryan Day interviewing. And if that comes out that he was interviewing instead of preparing for the game, he's going to get a lot of flack from Columbus. Not that he won't anyway, but.
Well, there was one, I don't know if you remember, I don't want to take it too much off of this again, but there was like an example, I think, of Boston College. Do you remember when Boston College had a coach and he interviewed for a position somewhere else? I don't know if you remember. It's been several years ago, but I think what they ended up doing, he interviewed, it was different because it wasn't for another college job. I think he interviewed for a but Boston College,
Jeff Jagodzinski.
I don't remember who it was, but he interviewed for the Jets job and they said, well, let's go ahead and take the Jets job then because you're no longer here. I mean, they didn't mess around with it. It was he was at Boston College, and I think he wanted to see if he could get a professional head coaching job, and they said, fine, go ahead and interview, but don't expect to have your job when you come back. So I don't know. I just I think you're right. I think that's who it was.
Yeah, he interviewed for the Jets, and obviously that's a bit of a different situation because like interviewing when you're at Boston College versus interviewing when you're the head coach of Ohio State and you have the biggest game of your year coming up in a couple of days. That's a bit of a different situation, I think.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I guess maybe it's not a fair comparison, but you asked me whether or not that would be a step up. I don't know that I would look at it as a step up, but maybe I'm looking at it wrong too, though. I don't know. I look at it as a lateral move, I guess. But I wouldn't think that he'd want to leave there, but maybe I'm wrong. You know more about it than I would. I don't know anything really.
The other question that I have is if Jim Harbaugh decides to say he's done with this and go to the Raiders or go to the Bears or go to the Chargers, will Sharon Moore, now that he won the 2 hardest games of the season, has he earned the right? And I want to ask in the chat, I want to ask you this. If Jim Harbaugh decides to leave for the NFL, I put it 50-50. will Sharon Moore now be given the head coach job, or will they still try to look at Jed Fish, who obviously has done great things at Arizona, was a huge part of the offense in 15 and 16, and obviously turned around Arizona. Is it going to be Sharon Moore or Jed Fish if Harbaugh leaves? That's the other question that I think this all leads to.
Well, you know what? If that's their choices, that says a lot about Michigan. That's two. I mean, that's like, I don't know that there's a bad. I don't think you can make a bad choice with that. Just I don't know enough about either one to be fairness, but if they have those two options, I think that speaks well to the program. I mean, that they can maybe have that option to pick one or the other. I honestly don't know who would do a better job. To be honest with you, I have no idea. But if they have that option, I think that speaks well to the program. And as far as Harbaugh. I think he's done all right. To be fair, I mean, I don't want to, but I don't know. I kind of think I don't know if he's the best. I don't know if he was the best hire, and that's without knowing enough about what he brought to the table. And I know he did real well at other places, Stanford, and did as well as you could possibly expect to. But I actually kind of thought up until about last season, I actually kind of thought he wasn't all that great of a coach. But maybe I'm wrong to even say that. But
that is a scorching hot take, my friend. Scorching hot take.
No, I mean, up till last year, though, I mean, I don't know. They were good, but they weren't. It's only been within the last two years that they've been really better than they should have been.
Let me make this point, and then I'll let you go because we have Michigan Ben behind you. So Jim Harbaugh goes to San Diego, turns around San Diego. Then he goes to Stanford, turns around Stanford, wins an Orange Bowl with Andrew Luck. He goes to the 49ers, and he takes them from the dumpster fire to one play away from winning a Super Bowl.
Probably should have won, yeah.
Probably should have won. That would have absolutely gone for DTI, defensive pass interference.
I think he was a great hire. He's a great hire, but I don't think he quite ever measured up.
Okay. I mean,
probably well. I'm probably wrong about it, but they're doing well now. Not what he's done lately, but if you look over maybe you can look over the past. There was only like a year or two there, wasn't there, where it was. I mean, it seemed like they were kind of under the radar a little bit. That's the way I remember it being. Maybe I wasn't keeping up close with it, but I thought they were a little bit. It was almost like if they were going to challenge, that was like kind of unexpected.
Chris, we appreciate your takes. We got a couple callers behind you, but thanks for calling in, man.
Have a good day. Thank you. Have a good day.
Next up, we got Michigan Ben in the house. Michigan Ben, thanks for calling in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Go Blue.
So, we're all smiles today, aren't we, John?
No doubt. I mean, this one really had me biting my nails until the last 20, 30 seconds. And even then, like, this one really went down to the wire.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think Sharon Moore did an excellent coaching job, but I was scratching my head why he was running at the very end, why he didn't want to pass that, just go for, because if you throw an incomplete pass there, as long as he throws a safe pass, you throw it incomplete, you go for it there, then you're still in the same situation you would have been. But if you get the 6 yards on you basically win the game right there. I was a little bit nervous when I was like, oh man, but hey, we got the win, and I didn't care if we won by a point. I just wanted that win.
Yeah, it was really something. I don't. This was by far the closest ball game out of the three, and it looked like Ohio State in the trenches was actually beating us at times. Yeah. Whereas last year and the year before, Michigan it was just out physicaling Ohio State. But I would argue CJ Stroud wins this game for Ohio State. I would also argue that a better quarterback than Kyle McCord wins this game. And if you don't play call as scared, you also win the game. Like, you have the second best player in the entire sport. He's going second in the draft next to Caleb Williams. Bank on it. And yet you don't trust him. Instead, you kick a field goal. Like, that was, in my mind, that's when Michigan really won the game. You could point to the Will Johnson interception. Obviously, the Rod Moore interception did win the game, but the decision to kick it instead of give it to your best player on the field, Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe, I mean, would it be an exaggeration to say he's probably the best wide receiver of the last decade? I don't think it's an exaggeration.
I mean, he's great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, comparing him to, like, I mean, even Chris Olave is, I don't know if he's better than Chris Olave. He might not be. I mean, I just
Olave is very good.
Here's my thing about Harris. I actually think CJ Stroud was a lot better quarterback than people gave him credit, and it may have, that he may have upped Marvin Harris. Not that I don't think Marvin Harrison's, he's a very good receiver, and he does like that move he made on Johnson. That was a great
move there. That was
spin
good.
move. Yeah, it was actually more. I mean, not even quite a spin move. I mean, it was almost like he knew where Will Johnson was, and he played that time that perfect. I mean,
and it was right after Mason Graham sacked McCord too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think Ryan Day honestly coached that game very well. I think if he would have been much more aggressive, he would have been over aggressive, and we would have seen more mistakes out of Kyle McCord. I think it's possible. Yeah. I mean, he threw an interception in the first quarter, and he played pretty good the rest of the game, but we could have seen more mistakes. I don't think Kyle McCord was quite just. I mean, I agree with that part. I mean, I agree if they would have had a better quarterback, that would have been a different game.
Yeah, I just think that there were a couple of plays where Ryan Day coached scared. And I just, when you have Marvin Harrison Jr., and by the way, Cade Stover, great tight end. Travion Henderson, great running back, could have thrown it to him. Instead, you kick a field goal. I just think that, and then compare that to Sharon Moore. When Sharon Moore was faced with fourth down situations, he runs Blake Corum, or he does a play action to the tight end to get Colston Loveland the ball. He played. I mean, my God, he had Donovan Edwards throw the ball. He had Alex Orji in the run package. He play called much more to win the game, and I think Ryan Day play called to not lose. And that was the difference in the game.
So let's go back to your point about the rumor of Ryan Day going to Texas A&M. It kind of plays into that. Was Ryan Day thinking, oh my God, I can't lose to a team that doesn't even have their head coach? I mean, does that play in his mind at all? Thinking maybe because you're expecting him to play. I would expect Sharon Moore to play very safe, because you don't expect the fill-in guy to make these to make chancy calls. You want to play it safe.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wonder if that went into it, but I look at Ryan Day when you guys are talking about rumors to Texas A&M. To me, it doesn't make sense, because when I look at Ryan Day, I'm not saying. I mean, I think he coached this game good. But at the same time, to know how good of a coach Ryan Day really is he somebody that, Texas is going to want to take? Texas A&M is going to take? Since he's been a coach at Ohio State, they've actually done worse than the former coach, which was very good, but he's lost to Michigan now 3 times in a row. And at the same time, you're in a school that recruits like second, third best recruiting school in the nation.
Yeah. So by the way, Washington State just scored. It's tied.
Oh, wow.
Washington 14, Washington State 14, and this game has playoff ramifications too. So if everybody's asking who's going to be in the playoff, if Washington loses to Washington State, I think that impacts, like let's say Washington then goes on to beat Oregon in the championship. That may impact if Washington gets in, or if Oregon gets in. So we got to watch this game pretty closely because now we're playing the defensive game of we're probably going to be in the playoff, barring an absolutely devastating loss to Iowa. I just don't. I mean, they're a great team defensively, but I just don't see that they're going to beat Michigan this year.
Yeah.
So now we're playing let's see who's going to actually be in the playoff. But Michigan, Ben, I got a couple callers in the line here. Any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I don't see a final thought. Let me go. Okay, so if I'm going to go with, I don't see. I agree with you on the Ohio State thing. I don't really see much a very easy path for them to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
I see it being. I see Washington, Oregon State, and Florida having easier paths to get there. I don't see Florida State not. I don't see them bumping Florida State if Florida State wins out. I mean, I don't think it's as near as easy. I mean, it's possible, but even Alabama, I could see them bumping if Alabama wins out. Wins and even loses to Georgia, maybe Alabama, gets in above them. Who knows? But anyways, I'll let you go, man. I just it was great talking to you. Great win. Enjoyed the game. Enjoy your show. I'll just watch you for the rest of the night, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for being here. Go Blue.
Have a good one. Go Blue.
All right. Next up, we got Moose calling in. Moose, go Blue. Big win.
Can you hear me?
I can. You're good.
Oh yeah, man, huge one. I'm so excited, dude. I know we were talking earlier in the game, and it's like, I got. You know what? I've been but it's mostly the Ohio State. Some of the trolly ones. I've been on Ohio State a lot this year, but I got to give them the respect today, man. That's a really good football team we just beat.
Mm-hmm.
It was a classic, man. That game was a classic. Came down to the wire. I noticed some people on Twitter, some Ohio State fans on Twitter, are already making excuses. They're saying that Roman Wilson touchdown wasn't a touchdown. It was clearly a touchdown. If you watch the replay,
100%, because he made the catch. And all it has to do is break that plane for that. It just has to break that plane for 1 millisecond. It's in. It's done.
Yeah, and he maintained control of possession all the way down until he hit the ground. And when he was down, and the ball wasn't stripped until after he hit the ground. That's clearly a touchdown. I don't know why they're doing it. That's crazy. I mean, overall, the game, I mean, it's kind of what we expected. The defenses were elite, and they showed up today. And they were really good against the run today. And both sides had to earn every yard that they ran. So I knew it was going to be that way. I gotta say though, for losing our best offensive tackle and Will Johnson too, the way that defense stepped up today, man. Oh my, I'm so proud of those guys. Mikey Sanders he became a legend today, man. That was a big interception.
Yeah, and Rod Moore at the end of the game, and obviously Will Johnson had that one early. But what did you think about the two head coaches and their difference of how they called the game? Because both of them were doing head coach duties and OC duties, and so you can compare it equally from that perspective. Right. It just felt like Ryan Day was playing not to lose, and Sharon Moore was just every trick in the book. Double pass with Donovan Edwards, your buddy Alex Orji running. What did you think of that?
You know me, I wanted an Orji in the end zone, but that didn't happen. It was close. So I love the play call. I love I was wondering when they were going to put Orgy out there for big plays because he can make plays with his feet and he can throw. So, I will say the coaches though, I tend to agree with you. I think Ryan Day was playing not to lose, and I think that might hurt him a little bit. And I think Sharon Moore, you gotta give it up to Sharon Moore, man. This is the second game in a row he's had to fill in for Jim, and man, I think he's done a really good job. He did have a few calls that I didn't like late in the game when they ran it on third down. I thought they should have passed it or had JJ quarterback draw to try to get the first down or something. But other than that, I mean, I think Sharon did a really good job with this offense. I was impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people were worried the last two games. Remember, folks, Penn State, they switched to all run plays because Drew Aller couldn't hit the broadside of a barn when he was under pressure from the Michigan defense. And then Maryland, JJ was obviously injured in that game. And Barnhart was obviously Barnhart had been getting cooked, on right tackle. So like they limited things as much as they could. To think that running up the middle 500 times was going to happen in this game, it didn't.
Yeah.
It was actually, I'd say, just as many perimeter runs and attacking the perimeter as there were runs up the middle, which I thought was great. The play calling was strong, I thought.
I will say Ohio State's D is elite. It's as good as advertised. They did a really good job at stopping the run today. They did give up a couple big plays, but I mean overall we weren't getting very many yards running the ball until Blake broke one later on. But yeah, they did a really good job, and I think Michigan did a really good job on defense too, containing the run. Henderson really didn't he never got a lot of big plays, so they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, big win, and now there's a couple of big questions, and we've talked about it with our historian Chris Foote, and we talked about it with Michigan Ben, but obviously a big question. Bruce Feldman has reported on this, the possibility that Ryan Day might take the Texas A&M job. If I'm Ryan Day, and I have the choice of another year of getting berated, death threats. I mean, these Ohio State fans are just relentless. You lose one game a year. Meanwhile, Ryan Day might get a statue if he goes 11 wins at Texas A&M every year, and he's going to make more money. I mean, what would you do if you were him in this position?
I mean, I've been hearing a lot about him taking a Texas A&M job. It's been going around a lot. I think it would be tempting for Ryan Day just because he's under. Because he's going to be on the hot seat for sure now, losing 3 in a row without a head coach for Michigan. I thought about this, John, and I'm like, maybe he should take the job, but then again, I'm thinking, you know how good Ohio State's class is, that their recruiting class is. So I think Ohio State's going to be even better next year. So I think he's in a good spot right now, even though he didn't win. If I'm him, I'm probably staying. I'm going to try to stay another year because that class is going to be loaded next year. I think they're probably. I hate to say it, but they're probably going to beat us next year because we're losing a lot of players to the draft. So I think we're going to have a down year next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Ohio State's about to get Air Noland, and they're losing a lot of playmakers, but they're still going to have a lot of great playmakers all over the field. Meanwhile, Michigan loses almost the entire offense, right? With the exception of Colston Loveland, Tyler Morris, Morgan, a few others. They're losing almost everybody. And so, and there's absolutely a possibility Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL. I think it's 50-50 right now. Yeah. And so if all that happens, I'm predicting Ohio State. My prediction before we even had this game and weeks ago, I said Michigan was going to win in 2023. Ohio State's going to win in 2024, just by the nature of what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm Ryan Day, I mean, there's no guarantee you're going to have success if you go right now to Texas A&M. I mean, they do have some talent there. They do have some 5 stars, but mostly 5-star or 4 stars and some 3s. But I think just what's he's got lined up for him at Ohio State. I think that unless he's going to get a lot of money to go there, I think that would be a dumb move. Unless they're planning on firing him, I don't know. Which is also a possibility.
I don't think they're firing him. I think his seat's going to be hot. You can't fire a coach for going 11-1. I'm sorry. He's
a good coach. He's not a bad coach. He's not been able to get over the Michigan. He just hasn't been able to get over the Michigan hump. I don't know what it is.
This was his best year. This was literally, in my view, this was the best of the 3 in terms of on the trenches, big matchup. They were beating our O-line at times, and they were beating our D-line at times. It was very evenly matched, and Michigan, I think, just had the better quarterback and made a few more NFL throws, made a few play-calling decisions that were very aggressive and worked. Let's be honest. If those didn't work, Sharon Moore would be getting all the heat for the quarterback, Donovan Edwards quarterback double pass and all that stuff. The fact is, sometimes the ball's shaped funny and it goes one way or another. So, in this case, it went Michigan's way.
And John, remember I was talking to you when it was me and you? What was the first thing I said to you about this game? What was the key? I said the quarterback play is going to be the difference in this game. JJ's got the experience. He's been in these games before. He's the better quarterback. I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. And it pretty much came down to quarterback play. Let's be honest.
So I have to ask you about the head coaching situation for Michigan next year. There's a possibility that Jim Harbaugh may have to sit out the vast majority of the 2024 season. He may decide, I'm going to go hang out with my buddy Mark Davis and go to the Raiders and in a brand new $6 billion stadium. He'd be able to draft J.J. McCarthy. He'd be able to draft Blake Corum. I mean, he'd at least get half. He could get at least a third of these playmakers that helped him win the game the last couple of years. I don't think he'll get everybody, but he could get JJ. He could probably get Blake. He could probably get Zach Zinner. He could probably get, 1 or 2 others, that helped. And he could obviously trade for Ronnie Bell if he wanted to, or he could get a lot of the Michigan playmakers and bring them to the Raiders or bring them to the Bears or another franchise. And he'd probably still have to sit out a few games, even in the NFL, because Goodell has this thing about honoring the NCAA punishments. But I think, it's a lot different having to sit out 6 games at the Raiders when you still have 11 games to play than sitting out 6 games in college, right? So I think he's going. I'm 50-50 on if he's staying, and then who becomes the next head coach if he does go. Is it Sharon Moore now that he beat Ohio State, or is it going to be a Jed Fish or somebody else? I mean, what would you do if you were Ward Manuel and Santa Ono, and you had to face that?
I guess depending on what happens with the full investigation of this cheating scandal, that's probably where I would go after that. But that still has yet to be determined. They're still investigating. But I do think if there was a time for Jim to leave, this would probably be it. This would be his last season with everything going on and the cheating thing and him being suspended. Especially if Michigan ends up winning a national championship. I think he's gone if they win a national championship for sure.
Yeah,
I think he's going to go to the NFL.
He did everything he hoped to achieve at Michigan if he wins the and I will say this, my goal is winning a playoff game. I just want to get that stigma off our back.
That's
you
what
lose to Georgia in the national championship game. That's respectable. Obviously, you want to beat Georgia, but they just look so freaking good this year.
I think we can beat Georgia if we get there. We can. I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling Tim Prangley, I was like, he said you guys look legit this year. I said, yeah, we do, but I'll fully invest into it when I see Michigan actually win a semifinal game first. I want to see them win first, and then I'll start believing.
Yeah. Conundrum, Harbaugh and NFL. Conundrum says 90%. I say 50. I think it's a coin flip. But yeah, if it really does depend, like you said. If Michigan pulls off the national title, he's probably gone. If they don't, he might be gone anyway. And if he, but yeah, if he wins the title, he's achieved everything he can in college football. So.
Right. And let's be honest, Michigan's going to win 3 straight Big Ten championships. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to Iowa and their fans, but I don't see that game being competitive at all.
Yeah. I mean, if Cade and Eric All were still in, at least it would be an interesting game. I just don't see, based on what I've seen offensively on the field. Remember, their OC is somebody who's already been fired preemptively. So he's what we call a lame duck offensive coordinator. He's been told he's fired in a very public statement at the end of the season. They're parting ways with him. So I honestly, if I were them, actually what I would do is I would try to call somebody up to play call this game, like a Bob Stoops or a somebody who might be able to come and step in for a game. Paul Christ, somebody, because you're really going to give your play calling to the guy who got fired. That to me is really, you have a shot at winning the Big Ten.
Well, that's what I was telling Erica. I was a good OC away from being a Big Ten,
right?
From being competitive, from contending for Big Ten titles, and that's all they really need is offense. That's been their issue. Their defense has always been very good or elite almost every year. So that's always been an issue, and I think that I think Iowa's defense is good enough to keep it low scoring, but the issue is their offense has to score points, and I think that's going to be really difficult to do against our defense.
Absolutely. Moose, any final thoughts for us?
Nope. I'm just happy for the team, man. Happy for Jim, everybody, and all the Michigan fans that had to put up with so much with all this stuff going on. This is just a big relief for us, and I'm so happy, man. Go Blue, and I'll see you guys later.
Go Blue, Moose. Thanks for coming in. All right, up next on the line, Golden Playbook in the house. Golden Playbook, thanks for calling.
How's it going, man?
It's pretty great. It is, can't complain. Michigan wins a 3rd straight against the world-famous Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yes, that was a good game to watch, for sure. And I just wanted to say congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
And root for you guys to win the national title, honestly.
Wow.
You guys actually look legit, I think. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think the issue really is that I don't think so. The two best offenses that Michigan has faced are Maryland and Ohio State, and I just don't think either of them are at the level of Georgia or even Bama, and so that's what concerns me about the playoff. I think this was a down Maryland team and to an extent, a down Ohio State offense in terms of their quarterback, at least. So going up against Carson Beck and Milroe and Bo Nix and whoever Michigan has to play, That's what concerns me now. Because, Michigan has 2 of the best wins in the entire season across the board. Penn State was a top 10 team, and Ohio State was a top 2 team. But, it still concerns me a little bit of, because I just think Georgia looks more complete, and so does Bama, and so does Oregon. Although Bama is losing right now to Auburn. So.
Oh yeah, by 1 point.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne having a good game.
So that you're just a little worried about just Georgia in general, just because they look.
Yeah, Georgia. I mean, I know you can argue, well, Ohio State took Georgia to the wire last year, but they did that with C.J. Stroud. I just don't. Georgia worries me until you get that monkey off your back and you beat a team like that. There's always going to be that doubt. That's the final boss. I mean, that's why Michigan, and everybody laughed at Michigan for creating the beat Georgia drills throughout the year, and everybody said, "Ha, beat TCU first." But the reason they did that is because they realized, the best teams, the elite teams, are preparing for the playoff all year. Georgia probably has drills for the playoff all year. I bet Ohio State had drills for the playoff, and that's why they were so good against Georgia last year. And so people saying, haha, beat Georgia. Well, no, it's just preparing for the postseason instead of not at all like we were doing. Whereas, because before it was all about Ohio State. It was all about beating Ohio State. It was all about winning the Big Ten championship, and then we'll figure it out. Well, you can't do that against Georgia. You can't do that against Oregon, this Oregon team. These are teams that are going to be extremely tough opponents, right?
Right.
So we'll have to see how the beat Georgia drills have helped.
Yeah. I don't know. I legit think you guys could do it. I mean, I'll just have to, like you said, they'll have to have just a perfect game,
Yeah.
I think they could do it personally.
Question for you, and I'm asking everybody. So the rumor on the street, Bruce Feldman and others have reported that Ryan Day is in talks to be the next head coach of Texas A&M. If you're Ryan Day, do you take that job?
Honestly, if he has a good recruiting class for next year, I would stay another year. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would stay probably another year at least.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he'll probably have a better class next year, like they were saying.
He does. I mean, he has a very good class coming in. He has Aaron Nolan coming in as quarterback. And he loses a lot too, but that's just the nature of being a top team. You lose a lot of talent. Michigan loses a crap load of talent, but Michigan's finally, I think, for the first time ever, going to reload. Everybody behind it's going to be an impact, but and I do think there's going to be a year where Michigan wins 9 or 10 instead of 11 or 12. But Ohio State can just reload. I mean, they're that good to be able to just fully reload. So I see your point there, but think about it. He's going to now have to deal with these fans for 364 days, death threats, just absurd treatment when he's lost 3 games in the Big Ten his whole career. Meanwhile, Texas A&M, there's not a game at the same level of impact. There just isn't. You want to beat Alabama if you're Texas A&M. You want to beat Alabama, but there's not that same type of game with the high stakes of a Michigan, Ohio State. There just isn't. And I think if he goes 11 a year at Texas A&M, they're probably going to erect a statue Whereas here at Ohio State, he's just like, he has to deal with all this. And so if I'm him, I'm seriously, apparently he might get paid $16 million a year. Like, I'm at least considering moving.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, because he'll probably be getting like death threats and all that. He'll probably eventually get tired of it, end up going. I definitely think he's a good coach, but he just hasn't been able to get over the hump against Michigan. Is all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Brian Kelly a lot. Like,
yeah. I mean, Brian Kelly, to his credit, he had some great Notre Dame teams in there. It's tough to win at Notre Dame. It's tough to win it's tough to recruit and win where you've got extremely rigorous academic standards.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's a very hard place to recruit. And, so to be able to pull together the classes that he was able to pull together and win games, obviously he had trouble winning big games, right? He beat, He beat Michigan State once. He had a couple of big games that he won in his career, but, Michigan's a tough place too. It's cold, rigorous academic standards. Again, they don't do NIL like they should. I've been on record as saying that, because they give NIL to the current students, which I agree with, but you have to save some for getting a couple of 5-stars these days, because at this point, you don't get a 5-star unless you pay them to even get on campus. Like, no 5-star will come on. Like, it's rare to get a 5-star to come on campus without paying them. And then you really need to give them a bag. Like, we're up against LSU right now for Bryce Underwood. I think that he's going to LSU because he's going to get paid.
Right. Yeah, Brian Kelly, I think, was a pretty good coach. He just couldn't get us over the hump. Like, especially when we made the playoffs, he'd always get stomped or something, and just couldn't do nothing really in the playoff. At least he got us there, but he just wasn't able to get us over, the hump. Because again,
usually
it's pretty tough.
Usually you guys had to play Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, usually you were up against one of the really good Alabama teams.
Yeah.
So that's tough for anybody. I mean, unless you're 2018 Clemson or you're Georgia, it's very tough to beat Alabama in the postseason because they prepare for it all year. They have 5-stars all over the field. So I wouldn't be too upset about losing in the playoff. Like, you got to the playoff multiple times. You got to the national championship game with Brian Kelly. The question really, and here goes Auburn with another big run. They're up 21-20, and it looks like they're knocking on the door to 28-20 against Alabama.
Oh, they're in the red zone, huh?
They're in the red zone. And these games have playoff ramifications. So like, if Bama loses a second game, they're out. Doesn't matter what happens in the SEC championship, they're out.
Right.
If Washington loses against Washington State, it's 14-14 right now. I don't think they're in, even if they're a conference champion. So, because I just think Washington's looked a lot weaker against some of the opponents, and I think they're going to look at strength of schedule and they're going to look at other things. Whereas Oregon's looked really dominant, and I think they're going to factor that in. So I think Oregon will be the only Pac team with a chance to get into the playoff if they win.
Oh yeah, I could totally see them beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, they look really good. Any final thoughts for you, Golden?
So, what's your thoughts on? Do you think that Jim Harbaugh is going to stay at Michigan, or do you think he's going to go to the NFL, do you think he should stay for another year?
So I did a show about 2 months ago on Michigan Wolverines live called The Last Dance, which was basically saying, I think Jim Harbaugh is going to leave. And I had the Raiders as the most likely stop. I still think he's more likely to leave than to stay, especially because it sounds like he might be out for a vast majority of the 2024 season with punishments. So because of that, I would say he's more likely to leave. I still have the Raiders as the most likely stop because, he's good friends with Mark Davis. That's honestly half the battle with these jobs is, if you're good friends with the owner, that's really half the battle. New stadium, he can draft a bunch of Michigan players and a bunch of the best players from other schools. He could draft JJ. He could draft Blake Corum. He could draft Zach Zinner or Trevor Keegan, at least one of them. He could trade for Ronnie Bell. Like, if he wanted to, he could make it look like the Las Vegas Wolverines really quick because it's kind of a blank canvas for him to do what he wants.
Right. And that's where Michael Mayer is too. Our tight end. But yeah, I think that's about it. I just wanted to say congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
win. And good luck the rest of the way, man. The playoffs.
Golden, always great talking to you and having you in chat and everything. So thanks so much for coming in.
Alrighty, thank you.
Later. Okay, folks, our call queue has been emptied. So if you call the show right now, you're going to get put straight into me. We still have almost 200 watching. So call the show. You'll get straight in if you call now. Meanwhile, I'll take a few comments. Ohio State and all of the Big Ten coaches will say Michigan stole the signs today. Haha, yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone could argue that things were in Ohio State's favor today. Michigan played their offensive coordinator as head coach. So he was doing head coach duties, offensive coordinator, and offensive line. Unprecedented, right? That just doesn't happen. Zach Zinner gets taken out of the game. And Colston Loveland got bloodied. Someone else got taken out too. I think Will Johnson. Yeah, Will Johnson, lower leg injury with Will Johnson. But Sharon Moore says he thinks he's going to be all right. So this game was favored in Ohio State's way with so many different aspects. So I mean, everything was set up for an Ohio State win. So I just don't think sign stealing is going to be mentioned in this game because Connor Stallions was resigned. He resigned from Michigan. So I just don't see it. Everything was set up for an Ohio State win. Yes. This was absolutely Ohio State's best chance to beat Michigan in years. And they didn't do it. Orgy might be the quarterback next year. It's going to be him and Jaden Davis, and maybe they bring in another transfer quarterback so they all battle. I don't think JJ's coming back now. I just don't. I think he's gone. The win today, I think, sealed that. I think he's gone. So I could be wrong. Because now it's very likely he wins the Big Ten championship again. And it's at least possible that he wins a playoff game. And it's at least possible that he wins a title. I just don't see him coming back. I could be wrong. But Jaden Davis is going to be a contender right away. Orgy's going to be a contender. Transfer quarterback unknown will be a contender. I think Jack Tuttle's out of eligibility, but I could be wrong. I think Davis Warren's out of eligibility. So I don't know. Yeah, Jonathan Smith is the head coach. This news was broken earlier. Jonathan Smith is going to be the head coach of Michigan State. Great hire and a timely hire because now he does have 25 days to get his staff together and to save the recruiting class. So they made that hire at the exact right time because they had to do it. When Urban said no, that Jonathan Smith was the second choice, Urban was reportedly considering it. And he said no. I think part of that is because good luck winning a title at Michigan State. No offense, but let's be honest. So yeah, Jonathan Smith was the second choice by far. If they hadn't gotten him, I don't know. It would have been tough. Maybe Narduzzi, but yeah, Jonathan Smith was the choice. How awkward is it going to be when Petiti has to hand Jim the Big Ten championship? It's going to be delicious. If it happens, all the respect to Iowa. They're a great team, great defense, great special teams. Their offense, trying. I will say, though, the fact that Iowa, and I know that transitive property, we've kind of said transitive property isn't a thing, but I do think the fact that Minnesota beat them, yes, it was controversial end of game, but even had Iowa won that game, it would have been by a couple of points. Michigan beat Minnesota by 6 touchdowns. Okay? Iowa barely held off Nebraska. Michigan whooped their butt. So, like, I know transitive property isn't, we can say what we want, but I'd say that's a pretty good sign for Michigan. And so Petiti is going to have to hand the Big Ten championship to Jim Harbaugh because they negotiated that he was going to be able to play he was going to be able to head coach the Big Ten championship. If he agreed to take the suspension today and for Maryland, then he was allowed to coach the postseason, including the Big Ten championship. So it's now 95% likely that Petiti, who just had a pissing match with Michigan, is going to have to hand Jim Harbaugh the championship trophy. Ohio State gave Michigan the best chance, the best game out of everybody, but they fell short. So it's going to probably happen. Charmin Ultra Soft Ryan Day. I think the team isn't soft this year, but the play calling was soft at times. Going for a field goal when you have Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field, I don't get that. There were a couple of plays that just were head scratchers. You got to trust your best player on that field. I just don't know why you don't. How great would it be if Cade came back to play versus Michigan? I don't think that's going to happen. He said he was out for the year. Eric All, I haven't heard. That might be a slight possibility. I wanted Cade versus JJ so bad, and it looks like it's not going to happen. It's unfortunate, but yeah, Will Johnson was a first rounder. He actually beat Marvin Harrison Jr. to get that interception. He was obviously a great player. Marvin Harrison Jr. put up a good fight against him, though. But it was a battle between those two. It really was. The whole game. Yeah, Ryan Day's team was absolutely tougher this year. Absolutely. But the play calling today was very questionable at times. To not put it, again, I've said this repeatedly, but it just felt like he was play calling to not lose. Sharon Moore, on the other hand, he went for it pretty much every fourth down. Couple of field goals, but he went for it enough. And the play action to Colston Loveland on that fourth down, that was I mean, he probably was tempted to give it to Corum again, and he gave it. He called that play action to Loveland. Great decision. Donovan Edwards' quarterback pass, huge, right? To a wide open Colston Loveland, because they weren't ready for it. To put Alex Orji in, he got like a 13-yard run when he was put in at quarterback. I think part of this was because J.J. McCarthy's, they wanted, he's still a little banged up, clearly. He did have some NFL throws you got to give him that. Like that one throw into the end zone to Roman Wilson. He had defenders on both sides of him, and he throws that ball in the only place that it was able to go, just a bullet to Roman Wilson. But play calling was definitely Sharon Moore. And look, he didn't have Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. I mean, this was one of the most impressive coaching jobs I have ever seen in college football. I mean, you might still want to give it to Jed Fish, but you can't deny Sharon Moore is going to be in the conversation if the head coaching job opens up. But, the other possibility, though, is that he gets hit by the NCAA and he might not be able to coach. So then Jed Fish does become a more viable option. So I don't know. I still don't think the NCAA is going to hit Michigan as hard as people think. And we've repeated this time and time again, but they will probably punish a little more for Burgergate because there's a receipt. They probably will punish some for violating the spirit of 1161, but not the letter, because technically that was written for staff, in my view, not calling up your buddies to go to games with iPhone film. And so I don't know if they're going to get vacated wins. I don't think they're going to get postseason bans. My guess is Michigan's going to get a fine. Harbaugh's going to get suspended more. And Sharon Moore and Jesse Minner might get a couple of games, and a couple of scholarships might get taken off the table. But who cares about that? Because NIL will cover up any reduction. I mean, we're very rich in terms of the boosters, the donors. So I could be wrong, but I just don't think they're gonna vacate wins. I just don't. I don't. Not for a rule that they considered getting rid of a couple of years ago, because now there's so much third-party film and so many third-party vendors that you can, So I don't know. I could see Sharon out recruiting Fish. It's possible. Michigan 30, Slow Ohio, Crying Ryan's 24. Go blue. Go blue, none. Go blue. James Richards, Dogs 3-peat looks like reality. I don't think you're completely wrong, but I think Michigan will give you a game if we play each other in the final. I don't think they're going to put Georgia and Michigan against each other in the semifinals, because I think they're going to want those two to face each other in the finale. So most likely Georgia will play somebody and Michigan will play somebody. And then those two, the goal is to get them in the final. But yeah, you guys have a ridiculous team again. Your defense isn't quite as good as last year, but you have a better quarterback, and I think that makes up for it. Best tight end in football. God, it's going to be a great matchup, though. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as close as much of a curb stomp as it was 2 years ago. You guys had to face check down Cade 2 years ago. When JJ came into that game, he threw a touchdown. And I think they were still preserving JJ even in this game, because they know that JJ is going to have to be the quarterback next week and then in the playoff. So I still think with Alex Orji going in there, they're trying to preserve him. But we'll see. We'll see, James. It's going to be a great game. I can tell you that. Crazy stat. Day is 1-6 versus top 5 teams and 54-1 versus the rest. I'm assuming those are Michigan 3 times, Clemson 2019. The win is against Clemson 2020, right? In the playoff, that playoff win. So yeah. Was Oregon a top 5 team when they came into Columbus? Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. Yes, on Monday, Big Ten Live, the Ocho, I'm going to hold myself accountable to my preseason predictions. We're going to go through every single team and how close did I get to predicting. And I would argue in this particular situation, people said I was crazy for predicting Iowa 11-1. Well, Iowa went 10-2 with a questionable call in the one game where it very well could have been 11-1. That's pretty close. So I thank you, Casey, and I have to root against you next week, obviously, but you know that I do like Iowa. I think they're I rooted for them this year as like a secondary team, because of Cade and Eric Gall. So appreciate that. We do have Jeffrey calling back in from Only Talk Sports. Jeffrey, welcome back.
I wasn't going to do it because I was on with Mark earlier, but, no one was calling in and wanted to talk to you for a few. John, congratulations on the Michigan win. Happy for you and all the Wolverine fans. Sad for the Buckeye fans that are reasonable, not, some of the ones that are going crazy and melting down saying Ron Day should be fired. I mean, I don't think that makes any sense at all whatsoever. But I do have a question for you, John. I don't know if anyone else has asked this because I have been kind of like, I've been listening to the show still, but haven't heard like everything that's been said. But do you believe that it's more likely Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL or Ryan Day leaves for Texas A&M or another job or whatever?
I think it's equal. I think both are going to happen. I think Ryan Day's going to take the Texas A&M job and Jim Harbaugh is going to take the Raiders job.
I mean, you're not crazy, in my opinion, at all for thinking that, because the way that this rivalry is and these two teams, I mean, it's unbelievable that a fan base could be upset at a coach for winning all your games but losing one game. I understand that the standard at Ohio State, in Michigan, Georgia, Alabama's to win a title. I understand that. But you lose to one team for the last 3 years and you beat everybody else. You were this close to beating Georgia last year. I mean, if they had to beat Georgia last year, Ohio State in the college football playoff, and then won it all, because obviously they should beat TCU if they're beating Georgia, then the narrative probably would be a bit different right now for Ohio State fans because they won a title. And even though they've lost to Michigan the last 3 years, I feel like more Ohio State fans would be on, I guess you would say, Ryan Day's side instead of more. I wouldn't say more than 50% are against him, but a lot of people online are against him right now. But then when you talk about Jim Harbaugh, I mean, this team right here, and I agree with a lot of people, this is probably one of his best chances to win a title. If he's going to do it this year,
this is it.
I mean, you don't want to say that Michigan can't do it, like with Ohio State, that they're above Michigan with like getting talent in, and they've won in other years, and Michigan can't do it. But this year just feels like Michigan has to take advantage of it. If they're going to win it, it's got to be now. And if Harbaugh doesn't win it, then what if things start to go in the wrong direction because, he got in trouble and Michigan's got some cloud over it right now. And then you talk about the fact that they could start losing maybe to Penn State and USC and Oregon and Washington, all these teams coming into the conference.
Yeah.
He's not going to want that. And it's like, leave now while you're at your all-time high. While everybody, on the Michigan fan base is on your side and saying how good Harbaugh is compared to 3 years ago when everyone was saying the exact same thing about Harbaugh that they're now saying about Day. He can't beat Ohio State. He should be fired. So it does make sense for him to leave now while everyone's on his side before things could get turned the wrong direction.
So let me tackle that We'll start with Ryan Day. So if I'm Ryan Day and I get my Just for Men out, get my hair and my Just for Men beard, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, just lost to Michigan, just lost to an interim head coach. And I'm going to get eviscerated for the next 364 days for losing 3 games the entire time I've been head coach in the Big Ten. 3 games. That's it. That's really good. And, and Ohio State fans have a point when they say, Ohio State would have beat Michigan in 2020. So let's say 2-3 against Michigan for the sake of doing this. Okay. Then you've got Texas A&M on the other side, who reportedly is willing to pay Ryan Day $16 million a year. I'm serious. And Texas A&M, they have tough standards there too, but there's no one game that's like this. If Ryan Day goes 11 wins at Texas A&M when they've been going 5 wins, 6 wins, 7, 8, and then Ryan Day takes them to 11 a year, I think they're going to be thrilled with that. And then the occasional playoff run and maybe he wins a natty. I'm leaving. I'm leaving today. Like why put yourself through that for 364 more days? Yeah, you got a good chance next year to beat Michigan because Michigan loses so many players. But Ohio State loses a lot of players too. You got Aaron Nolan coming in, who I think will be a great quarterback for them. But, Michigan's going to, contend as they always do. And Texas A&M, they're going to roll out the freaking welcome wagon. They're going to give him a huge salary, whatever he needs resources-wise to do the job. I don't think Ohio State would match $16 million a year with what just happened. So why stay? I mean, think about it. Like, we did have a private jet tracker that showed a private jet going from Columbus to College Station, and I thought it was either him or Urban. But it just makes more sense for it to be Ryan Day. So I think he takes it.
I get that, but I mean, there's a couple of things that the way I feel about this situation on the Ohio State and the A&M side. I'll start with the Ohio State side. You talk about the fact that a head coach, a big reason. I mean, obviously money's a big part of it, and that's more of the A&M point that I'll get to. But you're talking about that a fan base is so hostile that a coach is going to leave for losing 3 games in conference play to the same team.
Ever.
I get it. It's a big deal, but he's going to leave because the fan base is so hostile. Who's going to want to coach in that environment? I understand that you're making tons of money and Ohio State is the resource. I get all that, but that just is a bad look to have a coach like Ryan Day bolt to another school because your fan base is so hostile toward that guy when he's done great. He hasn't done anything necessarily wrong. Again, losing the 3 games to Michigan, it sucks because you want to beat your rival, and obviously not beating Georgia in the college football playoff for them for winning a title. But other than that, they've been perfect in every other game. And I don't know. I mean, even Urban Meyer didn't, win always against some of the other teams, Iowa, Purdue. I mean, they would lose games like that. But I don't know. That's just not a good look to me. But then you talk about the money to kind of shift over to A&M. $16 million deal. I mean, have you not learned anything, A&M? You just gave Jimbo Fisher the big contract extension until 2030 or whatever it was, and now you just gave him $75 million to walk out the door, and now you're proposing rumors $16 million possibly to Ryan Day. What in the world? I mean,
they have
it doesn't
the money.
make any sense. I know they got the money, but you're just throwing money away. I mean, shouldn't you hire Ryan Day? I mean, I understand you got to get him there, but like just a little bit more than what he's getting paid at Ohio State, and then see if it works out before you just give him this big contract. Because
I mean, Indiana's a different situation because obviously they didn't give Tom Allen a massive contract like I was talking about earlier with Mark. And I know that Mark, said, why should I care about Indiana's finances? It was hilarious when he said that.
Yeah.
But I'm serious.
But you're analyzing this from every angle. You've got to at Only Talk Sports. Got to analyze this.
I appreciate that, John. I try to. I really do. And keep the bias out of it and just talk about it. I try to talk about all that, the finances and on the field. It's hard to balance both. You're looking at the fans, you're looking at the money, you're looking at the on the field, off field. It's crazy. But, I mean, to me, you talk about with Indiana giving Tom Allen extension, it made sense. And if they do fire him, $20 million for Indiana is a lot because of the program like that. But I know A&M has all the money, but I just don't like the fact that they're just throwing so much money away. I get it. It is what it is. And Jimbo, I mean, it sucks he got fired, but $75 million. It's great for him. But to now, if they did hire Ryan Day to give him that much, it just seems like A&M's playing with fire a little bit.
Oh, Milroe just took a hit. He's at the looks like close to the 10-yard line. Took a big hit there trying to get to the end zone. Auburn's winning the game, but looks like let's see if Milroe's okay.
I hope he is. I've been keeping tabs with the game. My family, obviously, all Bama fans, and they're one Alabama to win. I like Bama too, but trying to be too biased, like I always say. But man, this game, it's always like me. Like I said in chat earlier, if Auburn played like this against New Mexico State, they would have beat them by like 28 or 35. They played this well against Bama. I get it, rivalry and everything, but you play that poorly against New Mexico State. It's crazy.
Yeah. It looks like 4th and inches now for Bama. So let's
4
see
minutes
what
left in
happens.
the game, roughly. I mean, you probably got to go for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's going for it. 100%. And they'll get it. I think they'll get it. Yeah. So Marcus makes a really good point here. I live in Ohio. The fan base is hostile 100%, but Day is not leaving. OSU fans are pissed, but this is a good point. With the 12-team playoff coming next year, OSU will be a perennial entry. Yes, they will. Absolutely.
I agree with that. And it's like I said with Mark last night. Can't believe I've been on here 3 times in less than 24 hours. It's awesome. But,
yeah, you're really going for it here.
But I was talking to Mark last night, and I mean, the 12-team playoff is great and stuff, but you heard like Joel Klatt during the game say that this game, again, is not going to have as much meaning as it does right now. Because now that you have it where the divisions are gone, if Ohio State and Michigan both play each other and they're 11-0 and one loses, then they're going to rematch in the Big Ten championship game, and then they could meet each other again in the playoff. They could potentially play 3 times in the same year, and it's
3.
Again, it's awesome, I guess, because you're getting all these big matchups against the same opponent and everything, but it makes that one matchup not as big a deal. This matchup had so much hype because it mattered so much, because most people understand that the loser was not going to make the college football playoff. And obviously, Ohio State can still get in if maybe Bama loses this game, if Florida State loses, if Washington, a lot of things break their way, they could maybe still get in. Very unlikely. But that's why the stakes for this game are so important. The loser couldn't make the championship game in the Big Ten. The loser's probably not making the playoff. But now that you have the 12-team playoff, it's going to make the game less important. It's going to make, just another game in the series. And I know that's a little nitpicky because, again, football games are football games. They're still going to be great watching Ohio State-Michigan matchup, even if it is multiple times the same year. But there's just something that's going to be lost. You're not going to have how big a deal this game was today because of how many implications that it had. Plus, with the added storylines with Harbaugh and everything. But it was such a big deal. And with the playoff, it's frustrating that with the playoff, 12-team playoff, it's going to make the individual matchups, I guess, less of a big deal, less important.
4th and inches. Here we go. Alabama, big play right here.
Man, Auburn. Jordan Hare, one of the best environments.
And a toss play, and they get it.
Alabama scored. John predicted it.
Well, I knew they'd get the first. I do think they're going to score, but
sorry, I don't have the TV on. I thought they were at the 1. Sorry.
Oh no, they crossed the they needed a 4th and 1. They got the 4th and 1. So now they've got they're at 1st and goal. But yeah, so 2 things. One, if Matt Zemek is listening, thank you for promoting the show. I know that you have a lot going on in your life, and you promoting the show means a lot. Matt Zemek hosts our Trojan Conquest Live every Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So, yeah, I mean, this was the last game, Michigan versus Ohio State, that means this much. You're right. I actually think that next year it's very possible, although I don't know if Michigan's going to be quite up there, but it's at least possible that Michigan and Ohio State play the game, then they play the Big Ten championship, and then they get matched up again in the playoff. That's 3 times. And I think out of every 10 years, it's going to be Michigan, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship 6 or 7 out of 10 years. Would that be
Probably
too much, or do you think that's about right?
I agree with it. I mean, especially the way it's been lately. Penn State hasn't broken through. USC's not there right now. Washington is probably going to be worse in the future without Penix, and Oregon as well without Nix. They could still be really good, but yeah, they're probably going to be below Michigan, Ohio State most years. It'll be more competitive, and you might have maybe Ohio State, Michigan have a loss already on their schedule before they play each other. But then again, they're still going to make the playoff because it's 12 team, and you can lose 2, maybe 3 games. Someone in chat said that I'm too young to remember before the playoffs and the BCS. I actually am old enough to remember watching the BCS. I watched the Kick 6 game. I was 9 years old when that game happened. I saw the Kick 6 game, and I was like, Alabama's not making the national championship. No, it was sad, because again, wanted Bama to win, but yeah, I remember that game. Again, those games meant more because you had to win to make the championship game. You had to win with the 14 playoff. Now you're not. That's all I'm saying. I'm still going to love football, but it just makes these individual games not as important because you don't have it where the stakes are all on the line like they used to be. Penn State is 2 losses. They're in the playoff. They're in the playoff in the 12 team.
Yeah.
Even though they have 2 losses, even though they did the exact same thing they've been doing every year, James Franklin's going to get more credit because he made the playoff. But it's going to be less of a big deal that you made the playoff because there's more teams making it. It's all of it's just shifting narratives everywhere. And I even heard last night with Mark, someone said that they need to get rid of conference championship games to prevent all this. It's like, so you're going to enact more change because you made this change. You went from the 4 team to the 12 team, and now you're making more changes to make it work better. It's like sometimes there's just too much change happening at once. With everything, and then you're trying to make more changes to fix what you did with the problems that are now arising, and all around you just can't fix all the problems. Every system is a problem. BCS is a problem. 14 playoff, 12 team playoff. But I do feel like that the more we kick the can down the road, we're creating more problems, even if it's unintentional, that we're now trying to have to change and fix with football because we went to the 12 team.
Yeah, the 12 team playoff. I think there's ups and downs to it, right? Because I think the positive of the 12-team playoff is we're going to get some awesome matchups that we wouldn't otherwise. Like Alabama, Ohio State, I think are going to play more. Or like, I can just see like these matchups that in a million years would never happen in the playoff because it's usually Alabama, Georgia, winner of Ohio State, Michigan, and then a sneaker team, like a Washington sneaks in one year, or a Notre Dame sneaks in, or somebody, a Clemson, obviously. Well, we're going to get some cool matchups. So I'm excited about that just because we're going to see like SEC teams have to travel north in like December and it's going to be great. So I like that. But yeah, I don't like the fact that the regular season won't mean as much. It won't be as special. The game isn't going to be as special. Although the animosity between Michigan and Ohio State will continue. Judging by our chat all year long at Voice of College Football with Michigan, Ohio State banner back and forth, it's still going to mean a lot, just not quite the same. So I see both sides. I'm excited for the 12-team playoff. I'm excited for the matchups and the Big Ten expanding and getting USC in and Oregon and UCLA and Washington. Those are going to be some great games too.
I agree. And I mean, I'm excited about certain things like that. The expansion has positives and negatives. I mean, the negatives is what's happening with Oregon State, Washington State. It stinks that, they're going to, Oregon State, Washington State, if they do get relegated to the Mountain West, it'll be the first time that a team has been relegated to, a smaller conference since Temple left the Big East and went down to a smaller conference in the mid 2000s. And that's not a big deal because Temple's Temple, but that's why Jonathan Smith left. That's why he went to Michigan State today.
Sure.
Became the head coach. He knows that Oregon State is not going to be on the level of these other programs if they don't join a power conference. He obviously doesn't believe so. Michigan State has more money, and it makes sense for him to go, and I'm happy for him, but it stings for Beaver fans. It really does. So, again, those are the negatives to it. Jalen Milroe with the illegal forward pass there.
Illegal forward pass.
Why did he keep running? If he could have ran, he would have went to the 10-yard line. Why did he not keep running?
He should have ran it.
He tried to go back behind the line of scrimmage. It's like, dude, you just run to the 10 and you have a 4th and goal at the 10. Saban's so mad. He's like, go. Alabama might lose this game, man.
Yeah, might. I think they're
Auburn lost to New Mexico State, and they're going to turn back around and beat Alabama. That is college football for you if that happens. Unbelievable. 4th and goal. There's only 43 seconds left.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I would have never expected. I would expect to be close, not Bama actually losing. This is insane.
Gonna bring in a friend of the program, LBC Robbie, joining us. Hey, LBC Robbie, what's up?
What is going on, fellas? How you guys doing, man?
Doing great.
All right.
Great day of college football.
Yeah, no, it is, and I want you guys to know, people like me on the West Coast, and I want to say I'm just a huge fan of this day, period. Just the pageantry, or for all the Michigan people in the chat who don't know, I'm a West Coast guy, but I'm a college football fan at heart, and I assure you, I can name more about the Michigan program the past 30 years than 90% of you can. I can tell you that the quarterback from Harbaugh till today. Let's see, Gerback, Todd Collins, and you had the Brady mix. Yeah, I mean, this is my day right here. I always make sure I miss work. I always make sure, God knows television has done what they've done to rivalry weeks. So not quite the day it used to be with all of it spaced out now. But it is really just something to, appreciate and also be sad because, now we have playoff debates and popularity contests and, for those of us, that's why I really love this channel and whatnot for, real people who watch the game, not the, I guess for lack of a better word, jitto heads who, just repeat the fine bombs and the, East Coast PN, thing and stuff like that.
I hate to interrupt
you.
Alabama just scored.
How?
31-yard touchdown.
Jalen Milroe down the field with a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone to Isaiah Bond.
Oh, yeah. I think he
got
it.
Oh, my goodness. Alabama's going to survive possibly. What a play. Unbelievable.
I don't think they're beating Georgia, though. I don't think they're.
No.
Yeah.
It's
just the thing with Georgia that just really bothers me. And let's be real. The thing is, they're approaching. No one's won 3 consecutive national championships. But of the teams that have come close, the Nebraska. I know both you're too young for that. But the Nebraska of the '90s, the Miamis, the Pete Carroll, they never had a non-conference, or they never only played 2 games a year, the way Georgia is right now. And I really think that's. Anyway, we're getting away from today, but I just wanted to join in you guys because I'm really just celebrating you guys. John, I've been watching you guys all year. I think you are a great kid. I absolutely. I tune in every time you guys are on, And I just, as I said, it's a sad day to me because, now we don't have, college football every Saturday. So.
Well,
really
we still got the
appreciate that. Thank you,
championships at
LBC.
least.
I
So,
appreciate
but
that.
yeah, thank you for that. No, it means a lot. We put in a lot of time and effort to make the best content we can. So.
No, you do a great job, John. And I just love your insight and your sense of wit and where you're at such a young age. It just really is so impressive to me. I love Mark on these channels. Everybody knows that. For those of you who don't know, I did play some college ball. Don't Google me. It's not worth reading. But I just wanted to, as far as the one thing, I kind of just am on the mess thing with this Harbaugh Ryan Day thing, and I don't know if you guys saw it in the chat. I mean, how weird would it be if both Michigan and Ohio State had a first-year head coach next year?
It would be crazy.
Considering that and the whole. I mean, you got to give Michigan the step up in that department right now, but I really don't understand. Can the NCAA still really even punish Michigan? It looks like the TV and NIL has all the power now, and I got news for you. Everybody still signs, and once again, I'll date both of you going back because when John Gruden was first with the Raiders in 1998, he brought Bobby Hoyne, for your Ohio State people, as his quarterback from Philly, where he was the OC, to the Raiders, planning on starting him. And then Rich Gannon ended up taking over, becoming the MVP under Gruden. Anyway, he was the first one to have that big, menu-looking playbook card in front of him, and he'd always put it in front of his mouth. And they asked, why do you cover your mouth while you're calling plays? Well, of course, in case they're in the booth watching me stealing them. So what makes you think you're doing that? He's all, because we're doing it to them. I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
Media needed something.
Yeah.
My hunch on it, LBC Rob, is that some people wanted to win their sports Emmys. Some people wanted clicks. Some people wanted, because it's all about clicks now. And Michigan is a huge brand. And so Pete Thamel and others saw this as their opportunity to win some awards. That's like they saw it as their covering the Middle East, basically.
Yeah,
and, so
and a lot of people covered this too, all over social media, YouTube. And the funny thing, I tweeted about, I think one time, I didn't even make a video on it because I'm like, everybody else is talking about it. This is insane. I mean, you talk about like USC with Reggie Bush, Indiana, and basketball got really in trouble in the late 2000s. Programs like that for really petty stuff compared to what's going on now. And I mean, NIL is legal. It is what it is. But I mean, come on, you just can't punish Michigan for like really substantial punishments when a lot of other teams are, I guess you would say doing stuff they shouldn't be doing either, but it's technically legal. You can't punish them to death.
Well, I mean, I say they already kind of punished them. I mean, you cripple them by making them lose their head coach the last 3 games. That's not nothing. And Michigan, I'll another be honest with you guys, that they're not the best at standing up for their people. I mean, look at the basketball sanctions with the Chris Webber thing. Tell them to go to hell. We ain't vacating nothing. But there's I forgot who is the other Michigan guy on these channels with Mark who has his own channel, which is great, by the way, and I love him. Anyway, he was off on a West Coast tangent one day, and how back when Texas and Oklahoma wanted to join the Pac-12, the 12 blew it because administrators wouldn't want to be in the same room as them, and a lot of that's true, and like kind of bringing like a academic snob into it, but at the same time, I say, how dare those idiots at Stanford and Cal be more worried about cancer research and global warming than their football program? Idiots, I mean, if there's somebody you want figuring that stuff out, it's them. So maybe they should, focus on that. So,
well, so Thomas has offered a contrarian view.
Okay.
That's BS, guys. Do rules not? Thomas.
That's not what I said at all.
Point to the rule. Point to the rule that Michigan
Yeah.
definitively broke, and give me the evidence that they broke it. And if you say 11.6.1, I'm going to tell you that was written for staff, not written for, hey, I'm going to Venmo my buddies to take iPhone footage from the 50-yard line up. And it's not like they were right now. Like, they go up. They had to go up. Like, that footage is shaky. It's not the best footage. Like, and the NCAA even admitted that you can hire third parties. You can hire third party. You get third party film. You can get it on YouTube half the time.
No, I'll do you one better.
Point to
And
me the
football
rule that they definitively broke.
Stein sealing is not illegal. It's not against
And
the
there's
rules.
that. Yeah.
But I mean, the point that I would make about do rules not matter, again, I made a point talking about past examples of programs that got in trouble for not that much. I mean, Thomas says two comments later, Buckeyes vacated wins for tattoos and autographs or whatever. It was different back then.
Mm-hmm.
Today, programs are not getting in trouble for the things they got in trouble for back then. Whether anyone agrees with that or not, whether you feel that, Thomas, that programs should be getting in trouble for the same things they got in trouble with 40 years ago. They're not getting in trouble for those things anymore. I mean, a lot of programs that got really in trouble 30 years ago are mad about today because, like, man, if this was going on, back then, I wouldn't even have gotten in trouble. Our program wouldn't even have gotten in trouble. It's the way it is, though. It was different back then. It's different now. Yeah. And to your guys' points, the sign stealing isn't even technically illegal. So, I mean, it's like it is what it is, and everybody's been doing it before. I mean, like I said, I don't have any insider information. So I'm just, going off what everyone else is saying. I don't know. I guess that's why I didn't even talk about the Michigan-Ohio State. I didn't even want to breathe any fuel to it. I mean, it is what it is that Michigan got in trouble for this, but I just don't think that in the current landscape that we live in college football, that program, it's going to be very difficult to punish them substantially, for things today when the rules just aren't applying the same way they applied 30, 40 years ago with how people got in trouble.
My answer to that to be with Columbus is yes, you're right. That did happen. And it was wrong then. And so I do remember the Maurice Claret tattoo. And yeah, that was a joke too. And yes, it was the same situation as today. Ohio State was on top, just never had a player challenging the 3-rule high school exemption, which the NCAA and nobody and no university or no school president liked. And yeah, they looked for a thing to and sure enough, he ended up proving them right. But yeah, that's but it was wrong then too. So
listen, we'll be. I don't think any of this is good. I don't think any of this is good. And I'm not agreeing with any breaking of rules or any program that does things that they shouldn't be doing. But if no one's getting in trouble for it anymore, then there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, we can fill a whole weekend with the hypocrisy of the NCAA and the system, the rules things. I mean, that's endless content for endless conversation. But today's about celebration. John, go blue. And then, kid, I'm gonna let you all go. I'm gonna check the end of this UW thing, me being the West Coast guy. And Long Beach loves you guys. Everyone in the chat channel loves you guys. You keep up the good thing, and I'll be in touch more often. Love you both, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. Well, that was.
It's like someone said in the chat really quick with Calvin Hobbs. He mentioned about Claret bought a car or whatever. I mean, today people are going to programs and getting $1 million NIL deals and driving cars. It's a different climate today than it was then. I mean, SMU got their program gutted for 2-3 years after what happened in the 80s. It's just not the same anymore. Do I agree with the rule changes on everything? No, but the rule changes are the rule changes. It's not the way it was then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these days, if you're a 4 or 5-star recruit, you're probably getting a car. If you have maybe you are a parent, and so you're the mother of your kids might get set up with a job at the university, get set up with an apartment near the university. These are the types of things that happen all the time. Obviously now with NIL and sponsorship, you've got sponsorship deals happening before you even take your first snap. It's just the way that it is right now.
I mean, Tom Allen said in the offseason, Jalen Lucas, the running back / returner for Indiana football, was getting offers from SEC programs. And he went to his house, and they had to work out a deal just to keep him at the program. They lost to Sam McCullough. He went to Oklahoma. They couldn't keep him. They tried, but they couldn't do it. They just could not get a deal big enough because Indiana would not fund it. They would not pay him to stay at Indiana. He went to Oklahoma, and this is all stuff that is true. It's not me fabricating. It's absolutely true. And they were able to keep Lucas, but that's the thing. That's why when Mark and everyone's saying that Tom Allen should be fired, well, that Indiana's going to have to up their game. I mean, whether if it's Tom Allen or someone else, if you hire a new coach and you're not giving them what they need to have a chance to win, it doesn't matter if it's Tom Allen coaching or someone else. You're not going to win. You have to have the necessary funds to at least compete in the Big Ten or the SEC, or you're going to get left behind. And Indiana's, again, lost tons of players. Penix left because he kept getting hurt, and then he met up with Kalen DeBoer. That was obviously the OC. I don't think he would have left otherwise, but he kept getting injured behind that O-line. But, yes, Indiana's just not going to be able to compete in the NIL space. You have to have the NIL.
Right. So taking it all back full circle to the Ohio State-Michigan finale, 30-24. When you look at the play calling in the game, you look at the mentality of both head coaches. I mean, the one it has quotes on head coach, obviously, for right now. What did you think was the difference in the result here? Ohio State obviously played Michigan a lot closer than the last 2 years. Looked like a much more even matchup in the trenches. What do you think was the difference here?
I mean, I know it's cliche and kind of a, dumb answer probably, but the two picks. I mean, Kyle McCord making those two big mistakes really cost them the game, especially the last one, because you talk about the Notre Dame game. They were able to go down the field after Notre Dame gave him the ball back, and he was able to lead them down the field to win. And on the final play of the game, they ran it in. Against Michigan, they had the exact same opportunity. They could have gone down the field, score a touchdown, and win, and completely, ruin Michigan's day like Auburn's day. It's been by Alabama somehow scoring at the end of the game. But McCord threw a pick. He was rushed, and he threw a pick. I mean, I don't think McCord played bad, but those two interceptions were costly because Michigan did a better job of taking care of the ball. Because both teams, even though the score last year was lopsided, both these teams are very close to each other in every respect, especially like this year, they're so similar. The running backs are both great. The quarterbacks are both really good. Obviously, I think McCarthy has a step, whereas last year Stroud had a step on McCarthy. But, they're both really good quarterbacks. McCarthy better than McCord, but they're both good. Both defenses are good. They were both really good teams. Obviously, Ohio State last year was probably better overall because obviously they showed what they could be against Georgia. Ohio State, it's kind of like with Auburn. If they play like they did today against New Mexico State, they blow them out. If Ohio State play like they did against Georgia, against Michigan last year, that game's not a blowout win for Michigan. It's how you play and sometimes how you match up. And for whatever reason, Ohio State just couldn't stop the deep ball of McCarthy. I think this year Ohio State did a better job of that, but they just made a couple mistakes. And ultimately, that's in the very tight matchup proved to be the difference. Because I don't really think either team played bad. It was a good game. Both teams played really well, and it was hard fought. And Marvin Harrison really kept Ohio State alive many stretches of the game, but it just wasn't enough at the end. They couldn't get it on that last drive.
Yeah, and you look at the play calling there. There was a critical fourth down. There were a couple of fourth down calls where Ryan Day decided to punt it, or he decided to kick the field goal instead of giving it to his best player. Meanwhile, Sharon Moore on the other side, he knows that JJ's not 100%. So what does he do? He gets Donovan Edwards in there to do a double pass, and throws it to a wide open Colston Loveland. He puts Alex Orji at quarterback to do a run package, and he gets 13 yards. He throws to Roman Wilson. Obviously, Colston Loveland had the most receiving yards in the whole game. To me, it just looked like Sharon Moore was and I was actually shocked about this because the Penn State and Maryland game, I knew that there'd be more for this game, but there was Sharon Moore for this game, and the play calling all across the board. I was so thrilled at packages they had dialed up. They looked like they just wanted it more.
I agree. And those plays were huge. I mean, to your point, you mentioned the play calling. I mean, again, it was a very even matchup, but sometimes those little plays make the difference. What if those plays didn't work? They didn't work, then Ohio State could be the one that wins. I mean, how many times have we seen, like, I know it's to shift gears to different teams, but get back to this. You talk about Alabama-Auburn when you would have Gus Malzahn. How many times did Auburn win over Alabama just because Gus Malzahn pulled something out of his hat to win the game? Something crazy, some play, whether it was a fake punt or just whatever play. Like, I'll be watching, I'm like, Alabama's the way better team. I know it's always a competitive game, like it was today, and Alabama almost lost, but Malzahn would do something and Auburn would win. That's why they won a lot of those. I think he won like 4 of the 10 game, 4 of the 9 game, however many it was. He won at least 3 or 4 of them. And most times they were not even close to being favored. A lot of people thought Bama would win fairly easily. But I just think that, like, with those plays, Michigan, they got, I wouldn't say they got lucky because they were really good plays, especially the Donovan Edwards pass, to your point, wide open. But if those plays fail, then with plays like that, it always stinks because if you don't get them, then everyone's blaming the play call. Because I remember, and I know it's another crazy example, but the Egg Bowl, when you had Ole Miss and Mississippi State last year, and I was glad Mississippi State won for Mike Leach because it was his last game before he passed away. But when people talk about Lane Kiffin, that was a bad play call, that was not a bad play call. If Jackson Dart takes one more step forward before he crosses that line, he stays behind the line, but he takes one more step, that defender comes up, that play works. But he threw it just a hair early. The defender batted it down. It was going to be a completion. It was going to be a score, and they would have gone to overtime. Now, granted, obviously, he shouldn't have taken the timeout before that, which people criticized. That was dumb. He should never, because then they would have had a shot to be able to maybe, get him off the field and do it again. But it's not necessarily that the play call was bad. It's whether it worked. And that's what a lot of people only care about. It doesn't even matter if the play call was absolutely perfect, but someone botched it or made a mistake. But in this case for Michigan, those play calls that they did worked. And that's why Sharon Moore, is looking like a genius right now because Michigan won the game. But those plays are always dangerous because if they don't work, you're going to look terrible. But thankfully for Michigan and for Sharon Moore, they worked.
Yeah. The only thing I would push back on slightly is that, once 2021 started, Ohio State, instead of getting 6 days of prep, now every single week there's Ohio State. Like there's what we call beat Ohio drills. So my guess is these packages, the Alex Orji package, the Donovan Edwards QB throw, and some of these other things that we saw, my guess is they were working on that stuff all season.
You're probably right, 100%.
I would say that would be the one difference I would put to this, because before 2021, Michigan didn't spend nearly – so Ohio State took Michigan always. So under Urban, they were prepping for Michigan every week. But Michigan didn't take it like they prepped for a standard amount of time like they would for any other opponent. But Ohio isn't just any other opponent. And so then 2021 comes and the mentality shift flips. And everywhere in that building, it's what are you doing to beat Ohio State today? It's not what are you doing to beat insert team here today. It's what are you doing to beat Ohio State today? And so they prep for Ohio State all year long, and it showed today. And so Jim Harbaugh, I think that's why it didn't look the same as Maryland. That's one reason it didn't look like Maryland and Penn State, because they don't prep for Maryland and Penn State all year. They prep for this game all year. And so that's why I think it looked more like the first 8 games than the last 3. At least I think that's one reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, definitely that makes a difference. Whereas like with Gus Malzahn and Lane Kiffin, sometimes they just throw those, out of nowhere and just throw it in and see if it works. So you're right. I mean, Michigan has been doing a great job of like you said, taking Ohio State more seriously. It's why they've won the last 3. But still, a lot of fans don't think that way. You know, like you, John, I mean, you are an avid college football fan, and you know your stuff, and you pay attention to stuff like that. And, you know, I do as well. Obviously I don't follow Michigan as closely, but I do pay very well attention to it, you know, try to pay attention to every team. But you are right. Some people wouldn't see it that way. And even if you prep all year for those plays, if they still fail, there will be people out there. They'll be like, terrible play call. Why did you do that?
Yep.
Because even though they prepped all year long, and if it failed, what if Edwards passed wrong? Because, you know, even though he's prepared for that, he knows how to pass the ball. Maybe he messes up. Maybe it's incomplete because he underthrows it or overthrows it. And then people are like, terrible play call, shouldn't have done it. Even though, to your point, John, they've been practicing more than likely all year long for that. So it's still a crazy thing. It just shows you how perception changed in a heartbeat. I mean, again, I'll point back to Harbaugh. 3 years ago, he was in the same boat Ryan Day is in now. Everybody's saying you can't win the game. You can't win the game. And if you, again, these play calls and these key moments, the narrative will be so much different about Alabama right now if they don't win and somehow they complete a 4th and 31. 2 years ago, Alabama beat Auburn in the same fashion in 2021. Ja'Cory Brooks caught a pass in the right corner of the end zone in Jordan Hare, and Alabama won in the 4th quarter. Now this year, it's Isaiah Bond in the left corner. But Alabama will look a whole lot worse if they lose those 2 games. But Alabama still, as long as you win, all that matters is you win. Doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter how tight it is, as long as you win to live and fight another day. And that's what Michigan and Alabama are doing, they did today.
The great Al Davis said it best, just win, baby. Jeffrey, I'm going to let you go. I think I'm going to wrap here in a second, but appreciate you calling back in. And everybody should check out Only Talk Sports for your sports insight and analysis. I'm going to find the link here in a second and post it. Here it is. So please, if you haven't subscribed to Jeffrey's channel, there's all kinds of good stuff going on there. Usually he's got recaps with like Will ND, and lots of stuff going on. So check it out. Here's the link. Subscribe to Only Talk Sports, and let's bump up that sub number a little bit for you. And thanks so much, Jeffrey, for coming on.
I appreciate that, John. I really do. And I had a lot of fun talking to Mark and you today about the Michigan-Ohio State game and a lot of other stuff in college football. Can't wait to be back on soon. It's always a blast talking college football with you and Mark for sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Well, after a big game, big win, it is time to wrap for the day, I think. 30-24, Michigan wins the game for the 3rd straight year. Ryan Day loses to an interim head coach. And despite the fact that Zach Zinner went down, despite the fact that Will Johnson went down, despite the fact that Jim Harbaugh wasn't on the sidelines, Michigan finds a way to beat, in my opinion, a better overall Ohio State team. Finds a way to win 30-24. Before we wrap, just a reminder that we'll have our big wrap-up call-in show at 11:30 p.m. Eastern today here on the main channel, so definitely stay tuned for that. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, it's about to be the Christmas season, so when you're doing your Christmas shopping, please use the Voice of College Football link for Mark. It's really great. Helps get us a couple of bucks. And what's wrong with that? Helps the channel. Also, don't forget to get your Voice of College Football merch at the Voice of College Football store. And in fact, I have here my Voice of College Football t-shirt, which you can't really see, but there it is. So I had that on as well. So I'm repping everything today. Get your merch at our Voice of College Football merch store. We're going to put the link right here so everybody can do their shopping for the Christmas season. There it is. Boom. And if somebody asks you, what do you want for Christmas? You can send them this link. It's so easy. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do. My next show is going to be Monday night, with Big Ten Live, the Ocho, which we do each and every Monday night. And I host the 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern block called the Ocho. And no, you have to be a Patreon or YouTube member, and then maybe I'll consider that, but probably not. But no, I thank everybody. And what we're going to do on Big Ten Live, the Ocho, is we will actually go through every single prediction I made, and I'm going to hold myself accountable. Which ones came true? Like Michigan State 4-8. Anybody? Everybody said Michigan State 4-8. You're being such a homer. Well, Michigan State went 4-8. People said Iowa 11-1. You're crazy. Well, Iowa went arguably 11-1. Technically 10-2, but that fair catch call there. Corey's still talking about it. Either way, it's a pretty good prediction. So we're gonna hold me accountable to all my predictions from before the season started. We'll also talk about some of the biggest games and preview the conference championship game, Michigan versus Iowa. It's going to be a real showdown of the finest talent. Michigan, Iowa, next Saturday. Technically 10-2, actually 10-2. Questionable call in the Minnesota game. Do we agree on that at least? Go blue, Calvin Hobbs. And it was really great. And thank you to Mark for giving me this opportunity to be on the main channel and the Michigan channel. And I was saying to people, oh God, if Michigan loses, this is going to be, I'm going to have some egg on my face on the main channel. So I'm really glad that our defense pulled out that interception at the end, because this would have been a very different kind of show if I was on here with everybody and the opposite had happened. But luckily, we don't have to think about that because Michigan won 30-24 with an interim head coach, all the adversity against Michigan, and yet Michigan beats Ohio State anyway. My name's John Diadamo, and I was your host for the last, I forget how long I've been on, couple hours. So definitely follow me on Twix at John Diadamo if you haven't already. I'm also on Discord chat. If you join our Patreon or YouTube membership, you'll get access to our Discord chat and so on and so forth. Great show. Go Hawks. Well, thank you, Casey. I read your Go Hawks comment, but I'm going to have to root against you next Saturday. I'm sorry. It's just I got to root for my Wolverines. There's a playoff spot on the line, so it is what it is. All right, y'all. That's it. We will see you tonight at 11:30 p.m. Eastern for the wrap-up show, call-in show at the Voice of College Football. And until next time, go blue.